We keep running in circles, trying to heal with invisible wounds, yeah. Talk to him. Welcome to Checks, Balances, and Banter. Tonight ain't just entertainment. This is examination. Patterns. Pressure. Pain. And the cost of division. Look, boardroom meetings, still the same conversation. Black faces in the room, but no real compensation. Smile for the cameras, sell the diversity, then underpay the talent and call it opportunity. Facts, trauma in the bloodstream, passed through generations. Trying to pray away pain without restoration. Tim Ross said faith ain't a mask for the damage. Can't build a kingdom while your soul's still in bandage. Everybody strong online, weak in the mirror. Hurt people screaming, but nobody really hear us. We praise survival, but ignore mental health. How you gon' build wealth while you dying inside yourself? Heal before the war consumes us. Heal before the hate removes us. Tell the truth. We keep fighting each other while the system keeps winning. Marching in circles, same page, different prison. Lost in distractions, forgetting our mission. We need unity, more than division. Don't let the pain become your religion. Don't let the trauma steal the vision. History rhythmically repeats until we break the rhythm. Dr. Umar got the people all divided again, debating identity while the clock keeps spinning. Everybody yelling, nobody organizing. Too busy online, too little strategizing. And listen, you can disagree without destroying your own. Can't build a movement if everybody throwing stones. That wedge gets driven every single generation. Labels over liberation becomes the occupation. Meanwhile, hopelessness infecting our men. Iyanla said they tired of losing again and again. System got them feeling like the game been fixed, so they stop dreaming big and start accepting the bricks. That psychological warfare disguised as exhaustion. A spirit slowly dying from constant caution. When a man lose hope, he stop protecting the future. Then the cycle repeats and the damage gets crueler. Wake up, wake up. Mothers crying, brothers silent. Brothers silent, children watching. Pressure violent, pressure violent. But somewhere in the darkness, they're still alive. We can heal if we stop running from the fire. Me alone still fighting just to get equal pay. Legendary status, and they still underplay. Crazy, that's the industry model. Take our culture, make billions, then tell black excellence to settle for civilians. We don't own the labels, don't own the stages, don't own distribution. That's modern day cages. Inclusion ain't ownership, let's be honest tonight. A seat at the table, in control of the light. Then DL and Killer Mike clash over politics, questioning consistency and all of the following tricks. Who really speak for the people once the cameras roll? Who protect the movement once they finally get close? Power ain't proximity, power's autonomy. Too many sell the future for temporary economy. Can't worship celebrities more than community. Or we trade liberation for manufactured unity. Talk that talk. We are more than the trauma, more than the labels, more than the fear they feed us at the table. We break every cycle, we can heal every scar, but education means nothing, 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 nothing if we never apply who we are. History doesn't just repeat itself, it rhymes. And every generation gets tested by the same distractions. Division, despair, and performative power. The question is, will we finally recognize the pattern before the pattern recognizes us? We keep running in circles, trying to heal with invisible wounds, yeah. Talk to him. Welcome to Checks, Balances, and Banter. Tonight ain't just entertainment. This is examination. Patterns. Pressure. Pain. And the cost of division. Look, boardroom meetings, still the same conversation. Black faces in the room, but no real compensation. Smile for the camera, sell the diversity, then underpay the talent and call it opportunity. Facts, trauma in the bloodstream, passed through generations. Trying to pray away pain without restoration. Tim Ross said faith ain't a mask for the damage. Can't build a kingdom while your soul's still in bandage. Everybody strong online, weak in the mirror. Hurt people screaming, but nobody really hear us. We praise survival, but ignore mental health. How you gon' build wealth while you dying inside yourself? Heal before the war consumes us. Heal before the hate removes us. Tell the truth. We keep fighting each other while the system keeps winning. Marching in circles, same cage, different prison. Lost in distractions, forgetting our mission. We need unity, more than division. Don't let the pain become your religion. Don't let the trauma steal the vision. History rhythmically repeats until we break the rhythm. Dr. Umar got the people all divided again, debating identity while the clock keeps spinning. Everybody yelling, nobody organizing. Too busy online, too little strategizing. And listen, you can disagree without destroying your own. Can't build a movement if everybody throwing stones. That wedge gets driven every single generation. Labels over liberation becomes the occupation. Meanwhile, hopelessness infecting our men. Iyanla said they tired of losing again and again. System got them feeling like the game been fixed, so they stop dreaming big and start accepting the bricks. That psychological warfare disguised as exhaustion. A spirit slowly dying from constant caution. When a man lose hope, he stop protecting the future. Then the cycle repeats and the damage gets crueler. Wake up, wake up. Mothers crying, brothers silent. Brothers silent, children watching. Pressure violent, pressure violent. But somewhere in the darkness, they're still alive. We can heal if we stop running from the fire. Me alone still fighting just to get equal pay. Legendary status, and they still underplay. Crazy, that's the industry model. Take our culture, make billions, then tell black excellence to settle for civilians. We don't own the labels, don't own the stages, don't own distribution. That's modern day cages. Inclusion ain't ownership, let's be honest tonight. A seat at the table, ain't control of the light. Then DL and Killer Mike clash over politics. Question inconsistency in all of the following tricks. Who really speak for the people once the cameras roll? Who protect the movement once they finally get close? Power ain't proximity, power's autonomy. Too many sell the future for temporary economy. Can't worship celebrities more than community. Or we trade liberation for manufactured unity. Talk that talk. We are more than the trauma, more than the labels, more than the fear. They feed us at the table, break every cycle. We can heal every scar, but education means nothing, 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 nothing if we never apply who we are. History doesn't just repeat itself, it rhymes. And every generation gets tested by the same distractions. Division, despair, and performative power. The question is, will we finally recognize the pattern before the pattern recognizes us?
Hey y'all, what's up? What's up? What's up? It's your girl Golden. I'm back with another live, and we'll be getting into some content today that is a little bit more like what we typically like to do over here. So I just wanted to say hello to everybody. Um, it is about 1:09 p.m. Eastern time here in the Carolinas, and the weather is pretty nice outside. It's not too sunny, it's not too warm, but it's cool. You know, it's feeling pretty decent. So after this live, y'all, I'm gonna be going outside. We'll be playing for a bit. But I wanted to come on and talk about a few things that I did see in the news feed. You know, things come across my feed, they come across your algorithm, stuff like that. So some conversations that were really dynamic and really deep that I have been seeing on different platforms, different things that are happening, experiences that people are happening. I wanted to come on this live and talk about that. So let's go ahead and get into it, okay? So basically, what we'll be talking about here, is not just about news. We're going to be talking about patterns, right? So I've been watching headlines, I've been scrolling through feeds, and, I keep seeing the same things and conversations seeming to happen over and over again. And so for me, it just seems like we are stuck in some type of loop, right? Like falling into the same traps our ancestors dealt with. We're just in a high tech package right now because we're living, in the future. It's 2026. We got a lot of technology and things like that. So it looks a bit different at the surface, but at the core, it really is the same things that just keep happening over and over again. And we don't seem to be learning any of the lessons. So today, I just wanted to use some of these stories and see if we can listen closely and educate ourselves and possibly find an exit strategy out of all of this because I really do think that it's time for like all of us, like really look in deep and have some checks, balances, and banter when it comes to our culture. So, y'all, one of the first stories I'll be getting into, and I'll be having this conversation with a special guest. And so they will be joining in just a moment. But we'll be talking about a few different topics. So, number one, I seen a clip of Tim Ross and the missing piece in the cycle of hidden trauma. So, Tim Ross did sit down with the Breakfast Club and he talked about his journey through the missing piece exposes a cycle where we use temporary fixes like prayer, overworking, or social media to mask deep emotional storms. Historically, this mirrors the 20th century strong black lead archetype, where public strength was a mandatory mask for private suffering. In the digital age, this has evolved into like faith performance, whether it be on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, where creators project a perfectly blessed life, where privately and in silence and behind closed doors are really actually burning out. So we can also get into the historical and digital lesson of all of this, right? So the trap is the performance of peace. Just as the algorithm rewards perfection, our history often rewarded toughing it out, right? Real power is the courage to break the demand for a perfect feed and prioritize internal mental regulation over public approval or representation. So basically, just saying, like, at some point, we got to stop faking the funk. You know what I mean? So, we'll be getting into that. And Tim Ross has, a really great conversation, I believe, with the Breakfast Club and opening up and being very vulnerable and about how he moved and he operate when it comes to some of those things. We also are going to be digging into a conversation that I heard with Dr. Umar on identity politics and the strategic divide, right? So he's talking about this deep divide. And Dr. Umar's recent debate revisits a century old tension between the assimilation and self determination, right? The same friction we saw between Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois. On modern YouTube, this manifests as identity warfare, where sub labels are used to, fracture collective building. Now, There will be some things that you will hear in this conversation, and I wanted to just go ahead and make a note that these are Dr. Umar's words and thoughts and feelings and opinions, and they may not be the representation of this channel. But we will approach this conversation and all around it with respect. And yes, there will be some conversation around the LGBTQIA plus community. And we have to analyze these debates because they are often weaponized by external forces to continue that said divide because we cannot have them openly. So we'll get into that, right? We also will talk about a conversation between Iyanla Vanzant, and she was speaking also, right, about the disease of hopelessness. So Alana identifies a hopelessness crisis amongst Black men, a spiritual apathy that mirrors post Reconstruction apathy, where systemic barriers lead to emotional collapse. On social media, this is amplified by comparative despair, where seeing curated high wealth lives make real world progress feel impossible. When men suppress this pain to fit a macro creator image, it leads to a dangerous breaking point. And then we also had in the news, Nia Long is now fighting the same good fight that we heard Monique speak about previously, and Taraji P as well. So the legacy of economic undervaluation. So Nia Long is apparently having a private pay dispute over the Michael Jackson biopic, right? That she played Michael Jackson's mother in. Now, this is the same fault. I'm sorry, the same battle that was fought by Hattie McDaniel and Dorothy Dandridge. Talented icons being paid for their role while their market value is suppressed. In the creator economy, this is mirrored by sometimes YouTube vibe secession, where veteran creators find that historical status doesn't guarantee fair payouts from evolving platform algorithms. We also will be talking about a conversation had or a fallout, well, not really a fallout, but a little bit of head bump between DL Hughley and Killer Mike, where we have to talk about accountability and the switch up. So the clash between DL Hughley and Killer Mike highlights the historical tension between radical activism and political pragmatism, similar to the friction between the Panthers and moderate legislative groups in 2026. Accountability culture uses deep dive videos to track if, people are switching up their energy once they get closer to a corporate or political power. So we have a few videos and audios per usual to show. And so we will get into that in just a moment. But first, I just want to go ahead and welcome and say hello to Imani. So Imani will be with me today, and we'll be having this conversation together as we move through some of these topics. So what's going on, Imani? How are you doing today? How are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm doing fine. You dragged me back, kicking and screaming. Dragged me. I was trying to run away, but she wouldn't let me.
I'll run away, but I wouldn't let you, girl. No, I wouldn't let you
You
know.
wouldn't let me go. She dragged me back. And I'm glad to be back. Because to be quite honest with you, those little mosquitoes can't stop us from doing what we want to do, which is talk about the things we really want to do rather than fussing and fighting. So I'm glad to be back. I'm loving doing the politics, and we're going to be doing some other stuff as well together. So watch this space. But yeah, I'm back.
Yay, I love it. So yeah, we gotta get back into the flow. You know what I mean? Because a lot of things can, and we'll be hearing about a lot of these things, or some of these conversations can distract you and pull you from what it is that you're setting out to do and the mission that's at hand. And we just want to, educate, love. You know what I'm saying? And build and unite community. That's always been the goal. That's what I thought was the goal. And sometimes you get caught up and distracted with other things and other people's stuff, but you got to get back to who you are and what it is that you do. So, yeah, we'll be doing that. But we're going to go ahead now and we're going to get into our very first video, y'all. And we're going to hear a little bit from Tim Ross. And this is him having a conversation with the Breakfast Club. And it was very intimate, right? And it was also very vulnerable. And I really respected that and appreciated that because I think we need a little bit more of that within our community because everybody's got to be the strong person. We feel like we have to be strong. And we feel like we never have like any weaknesses or we can't be vulnerable. But in this conversation, and again, he also, you'll see, has recently written a book. We're going to listen to a little bit of this here in this conversation. Yeah, I also want to say previously to playing the video that, viewer discretion to be advised, and of course, copyright disclaimer, all of those things, because he's having a really deep and emotional, heartfelt conversation. And I want all of us to like take that into consideration that this is a Black man that's coming out and being totally vulnerable and honest about some of his experiences in his life and things that he's been through and some misconceptions that he used to have and where he is right now on his journey. So let's go ahead and listen to that together, and then we'll make our commentary in between as usual. So let me go ahead and play this, y'all. We'll meet y'all in the chat.
Tim Ross. He has a new book that's out right now, The Missing Piece. Good morning.
Good morning. Not just The Missing Piece. I love the subtitle, How to Be Held Together When You're Falling Apart. I think that's a great conversation to have during this mental health awareness month.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I'm so grateful to be here with y'all.
What's the biggest lie people believe about having peace that's actually keeping them stuck?
The biggest lie about having peace that's actually keeping them stuck. Probably that money is going to get you peace, or marriage is going to get you peace, or the right zip code is going to get you peace, or promotion is going to get you peace, or a platform is going to get you peace. All of those are temporary. It'll give you a good dopamine hit and make you feel secure, but it's not going to last. Peace has to be something that is cultivated and settled in from the inside out, not from the outside in.
When you talk about holding yourself together, right? Is it okay to fall apart, though?
Oh, for sure.
Is it okay to let things get to your lowest? And I always say when you get that low, just sit in it for a little bit.
Absolutely.
You can help it.
Yeah. So there's a misconception that if you have peace, that means you have the absence of turbulence. You have the absence of struggle. I contend that you can have peace and be angry. You can have peace and be sad. You can have peace and be at the lowest state of grief. I lost my father 2 years ago.
Sorry.
And thank you. I appreciate it. And that was my hero. Okay. Charles Everett Ross is like my hero. And so I was grieving, but still peaceful. I missed him. His absence was looming at the time, but I wasn't in despair because I had peace on the inside.
You know, Tim, a lot of people perform peace instead of living it, right? Like, how do you know when you're, I guess, faking your healing?
I think you can spot the fakers when they retell their story, but they actually start reliving it. Like there's so many people that, like, we live in a space right now where like everybody wants to be vulnerable, right? Everybody wants to, you know what, I can share and I'm transparent, but then they start talking about it. And then in the middle of talking about it, they're actually reliving it. And it's like, I don't think you're talking about a wound that's healed. I think you're actually still bleeding from this wound. And you're in ICU and you should probably turn off the mic. Right? We're not actually swapping stories right now, and I'm sharing stuff. And if I was breaking down like, man, Demi, I'm glad you brought that up, dog. My body is starting to tell all of y'all, he ain't over this.
Yeah.
He trying to talk about it, but
Mm-hmm.
he ain't actually over this. And our bodies, when our words don't match our body's experience, our bodies tell.
That's right.
Your skin to break out, your hair to fall out, your teeth to fall out. You'll start getting ulcers. You'll break out in the rat. Like your body is like, stop capping.
That's real.
Your body wants you to tell the truth. And when you do tell the truth, your nervous system regulates. This is why lie detectors are, even though they can't be 100%, unless you're a psychopath, a lie detector can detect a liar because the mouth and the body must live in harmony.
Mm.
And when it's not, the body starts giving even micro signals that this person is lying.
But emotion doesn't stop, right?
Yep.
So in real time, you still are getting to that place where your emotion is clouding what's actually happening.
Yeah.
What's the talk through then where you're not getting back to that place of like letting it all kind of take everything away?
Yeah. So I think the talk through has to be.
Wow. So this is not a very long interview, but it's a very intense and truthful interview, right? And so from what we've heard so far, this couldn't be further from the truth, right? And so a lot of times when I hear these type of interviews and conversations, what I do is like I really download it and I think about it and apply it to myself first, right? And I can say in a truthful way that based off of what he's saying, yes, a lot of us have been in these predicaments. I know I have. I know this is something, that I tend to do because sometimes, in your life or your family dynamic, you have to be the strong one. Like you have to be the one that holds everything together for everybody. So a lot of times, when that's like your position that you take, and you know that amongst doing that, you still are like dealing with things, you're, having your own emotional issues, your own struggles, your own hardships and stuff. You don't want to express that to, your family, this one that are leaning on you for strength, because if they're not strong and then you portray that you're not strong, who's holding anybody up? And I think in a lot of our family dynamics, number one, but just in our dynamics and relationships with people overall and in general in life, if you are deemed to be the strong one, then when you're going through it, you can't be honest or really show that you're going through it. You know what I mean? Like you have to, or we feel like we have to be strong all the time. And that's what we are. And that's what we'll continue to be. And we got this. And in the quiet corners of your room or your home or in your silence time, you find yourself like having these moments where you're like being honest with yourself. You're trying to be strong for everybody else, but really you could be having, some meltdowns and some crash outs as well. Do you agree with any of that, Imani?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some really interesting things that he's saying in this video. The first thing he's saying is it's about having peace on the inside, not on the outside.
Right.
And he is talking about the things that don't really bring you peace, or the things that most of us really look for or are normally searching for or think bring us peace. And the things he labels are money, relationships, your status, or your environment. um he's saying they don't bring lasting peace. And what those things can do is bring you temporary wins or temporary dopamine hits. Um,
Exactly.
he also says you can be in pain and you can still have peace, but he's really saying that it's like being stable, but still struggling and being in pain. Um, you know, talks about losing his dad.
Hmm.
He says he's grieving, but he's not in despair about it.
Not
So
far apart. Right.
yeah. So and the other thing that he says is a lot of people act as though they're healed, But then when they start talking about these painful things, they're reliving it. So they're not really healed. I like the line where he says they're still bleeding, basically. They're in ICU.
Yeah, I see
Um,
it. Yeah.
yeah. So I think that was a really, it's really powerful, very, that's what I got from like his first take, really, from the first half. But we can go on and listen to the rest.
Right. I really agree with that. You know what I mean? And I think that if, majority of us are honest and open, with ourselves and others, that, we basically can admit to the fact that we've all been in that space a time or two. It may be as recent, it may be in the past, right? But we all have been in that place where it's like, you got to be the pillar of strength. You got to show up to this job every day and, knock it out the park. You got to make sure your family and all of your children and your spouse, or maybe if you have parents or whatnot you care for, you got to be the one to make sure that they're straight. And when you're doing all of that, you're putting all of the things that you got going on and you're dealing with and you're feeling on the back burner, because everything else is more important than you. And that's when self-love and all of that kind of comes into a play and a conversation as well, but that can be a conversation for another day. But yes, I like that you pointed out that fact that he said that, like, when you are really at peace, you can even go through the most trying times and it not shake you or waver you, right? Like, you can lose a parent, but because you're at peace or you have this type of structure within your life, you may not fall to pieces, right? You'll be upset, you'll be sad, you'll hate for that loss, but you're not going to lose it all. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to crash all the way out, because you've learned how to now deal with these things accordingly. But yes, let's keep going and hear some more from Tim, because this is a great conversation. And what's up, dropping it T? Thank you for popping in. I appreciate that. How you doing, girl? All right, let's keep going.
First of all, you can't talk by yourself. You can't talk in a silo. Something that I write about in the book, you have to break the silence. Whatever you can't put into words is going to choke you.
Say silence isn't golden after all.
Silence is not golden after all. So one of the synthesis that I've come out of this in the 28 years that I've been in therapy is, whatever doesn't come up and out of your mouth through words will come up and out of your body through actions. And what you can't actually speak out, you will act out.
That's why I talk so much, man. To be honest.
You think that's the reason?
I think so. That's why I gotta say it.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way.
I've always been that way since I was little. I got to say it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like talking behind people's back. Like, I gotta say it to the person.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
So I got sexually abused when I was 8.
Me too.
Did you?
Yeah.
At 8?
8 years old.
Wow, bro.
Word of God.
Yeah, so it was an older teenage boy that lived across.
Okay, so this portion of the conversation, y'all, I will put up the banner for viewer discretion advised and extreme trigger warning. This is Tim Ross being very transparent and open about some experience he's had in his life in the past, and it does wrap around essay and things of that nature. So viewer discretion is advised and trigger warning. But I find him amazingly brave and necessary, especially because there is so much of that individuals have experienced and individuals continue to experience. And it's not always an easy thing to admit to or have a deep felt conversation about and be as transparent as he is today. So salute to him. My hats is off to him. For being able to have this conversation, because I think it's necessary. But I just wanted to let y'all know that quick disclaimer, and we'll move forward with him listening to his story. So let's get back into it, y'all.
The street.
It wasn't a boy, though. It was an older woman.
Understood.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. It was still sexual.
It doesn't.
assault.
I know. But
Yeah.
That was one of them things you should have not spoke.
You just wanted to go on record.
Yeah, you should have not spoke that one. I mean,
I'm not laughing, but he was so
We had already bonded.
He didn't bond with you.
He was like, oh yeah, people cheered that. He was like, in the silo real quick. The silo
but I had the other
quick.
gender.
You're right.
I wanted to be, and she was older.
I hate this guy. Go ahead. I'm sorry because it was a bond at first.
Yeah,
But no. That was my.
I just want to make the record clear. That's all. I had nothing to do with nothing. Go ahead.
But for who? Who did you make the record clear for?
For the people that's going to clip it.
That's all.
Okay.
That's all. That's all.
So you're gonna leave me out here. We both had some ambiguity until you wanted to go your own way.
Okay, so there was a lot of noise because everybody laughing and talking over each other, but I wanted to make it clear what he's trying to say. There was an experience that he had at a young age when it came to this, that is falling under the umbrella and does fall under the umbrella of, like SA and things of that nature. And what he is saying is, no, it wasn't by the hands of another male. It was at the hands of a female. And there are a lot of young men that are out there that, even that I've been seeing within current time are now feeling more comfortable coming forward and telling these stories and these experiences and actually seeing and realizing what they are for what they are, because there was a time in, a community to where, young men and young boys were more so the ones that's like, they kind of can just be out there and living life a lot earlier and sooner than what the young girls and, women do. So a lot of young boys have had experiences with older women. And that was always something that was like, like a badge on your sleeve or a pat on the back, sometimes from parents, community, friends, whatever, if we're just going to have the real conversation about it, right? That was something that you wear as like a badge of honor, right? As a boy in some circumstances. And when it comes to girls, sometimes it was looked at, especially as what it is, right? But with the boys, that kind of got overlooked. And there's been a lot of boys that have grown up to men and, going through life and different circumstances and things like that, which are now getting into an era and a place where they can openly have these conversations and be realistic, or at least accepting to the fact that what they undergone in those experiences was actually the same concept, right? This is a person who is probably like older than you, maybe extremely older than you, and, is really having experiences and stuff with you at an age where they shouldn't be. Right? You're too young to be having these experiences with these people, but this happens to young boys, and they're now seeing in retrospect that was inappropriate, that should have never happened, and it can cause and lead to a lot of different things. So overall, I just want to give that disclaimer. Let's let him keep talking, because I know with all the loud, banter and laughing, y'all might not heard what they said. It wasn't a male, it was a female. So let's keep on.
Dude noted, my guy.
He was like, he didn't even say sorry. He was like, no, that wasn't my case.
Tim added the gender to it. I didn't think the gender mattered either way. He added the gender to it.
You know what? Because it's a part of my whole story.
Got you.
All right, go ahead, sorry.
And it is something that so many men go through.
That's right.
That I don't want to leave it out to identify with the men who will never speak up on this, and it's killing them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that happened to me at 8, but I didn't share it with my parents until I was 19.
Why not?
Do you know, at the time, in my mind, Envy, I knew my dad would have killed him and my brother would have buried the body.
Wow. Wow, that's real.
And I was 8. So I look at 8-year-olds and I'd be like, how was I thinking that at 8? But I was so afraid of blowing up my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I was projecting the actions of adults. And so I was actually protecting my abuser and protecting my family at the same time.
Was your dad mad at you when you finally told him?
No.
Really?
No, actually, so here's a story. My mom actually caught me watching porn at 19, 2 o'clock in the morning. And being the woman that she is, she went straight to her room, hit her knees, and started praying. So I'm embarrassed. And this is 90s porn, dog. Like, this is VHS in a VCR porn, right? This ain't flip up on the screen. You know what I'm saying?
You could just swipe
yeah,
right
yeah.
up
You're
there.
like, oh, I'm looking at my
You
app.
gotta run pause and stop. Take the tape out.
Exactly, right? So I go in my mom's room and I tell her, I said, hey, Mom, I don't want you to think I'm nasty. I don't want you to think I'm a pervert. But I got abused when I was 8. So the 8-year-old was in a 19-year-old body and finally got to tell mommy where it hurt. The profound thing about that moment is my mom contained me, held space for me, woke my younger brother up who was abused by the same dude.
Damn.
And then my dad, who was working at the post office at night,
Okay, so over all of the cackling and the things that they do over there at the Breakfast Club, I thought that I heard them say that it was a female. Apparently, I'm sorry for that misinformation, because now he's confirming that.
Golden, there was 2 things that were said. He said, this guy said he was abused by a man, and Charlemagne was saying he was abused at the same age, but it was by a woman. So there were 2 different things going on at the same time.
Okay.
So you weren't wrong.
I thought
So his was a man, the guy, Tim Ross's was a man, and Charlemagne's was a woman. That was why the laughing was going on, because they were saying, why did you have to stress yours was a woman, Charlemagne? That was where they were having the banter. So you weren't confused. You didn't. There were 2 different things going on at the same time. But let's continue.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you for that. Okay. Thank you. All right.
he had to come home. So that in this one night, what should have been like hella embarrassing and like full of shame.
Feel healing. Sounds healing.
Dude, I woke up the next morning and I felt like a 2,000-pound slab of concrete came off my chest. And
you said your brother too?
My brother got abused by the same
both of
dude.
your brother, did y'all know? Did y'all ever talk about it?
So I found out he got abused by bro when I was 15. He went to jail on an unrelated charge. So when he came out, we were gonna kill him. And like, we ain't assassins, you know what I'm saying? This is like teenagers, like, let's just kill the nigga that, did us dirty. Because I think I was more hurt when I found out it happened to him than it happened to me. So like, we just got the Ginsu knives out the drawer, and they had a welcome home party for him. And we were like, come out into the street. I couldn't start sticking him until like I knew he knew why he was getting stuck. You know what I mean? Like, I had to look him in the eye, like, you know what you did, right? And I couldn't see it in his eyes. Now, whether it was real there or not, I wouldn't be sitting with y'all right now, because I'd been doing time and probably would have never left LA.
You want him to know why this is happening.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? If I just start carving you up and you just like, I don't understand. You know what I mean? Like, I had enough decency to be like, you need to know what you're doing. But
I didn't just do it to y'all, I'm sure.
Oh no, dude. You know how it stopped? My older brother found him with the next door neighbor.
Oh, wow.
And my fears at 8 were confirmed because my older brother almost killed him. So I'm like, if this is the way you reacting over the neighbor, you wouldn't be here right now if you knew it happened to me. So that level of silence with a whole neighborhood of boys, when I came out of that at 19, I was like, I'm never going to have a secret again as long as I live.
Let me ask you a question.
I always say that the black community, we do ourselves no favor by keeping secrets.
Not at all.
Especially black families.
Absolutely. And a lot of stuff that we call generational curses are really generational secrets.
Could have been broken.
Absolutely.
Spoken up,
yeah,
right?
For sure.
Hold up. Every day I wake up, wake your ass.
All right, so that was a bit much to hear, but it's necessary to hear and to take into account that Tim is very brave for coming out and speaking about that. I know Charlemagne, we had, with all the noise, Charlemagne said something similar happened to him at the hands of a woman. Tim said it happened to him and his brother and others in his community at the hands of a man. But regardless, it has happened to these individuals, and they were having a very intimate conversation about that. What do you think about that, Imani?
There's a couple of things. You touched on it earlier. The first thing I would say is with when we talk about men and abuse, in fact, when we talk about young people and SA, there are two things that used to be, there are two stigmas attached. If a young man was SA'd by an older woman, in some cultures, in fact, in quite a lot of cultures, it wasn't considered essay. It was considered a rites of passage. And if the person didn't have a positive reaction to it, it was kind of a what's wrong with you? Whereas if a young man was essayed by another man, there was a bigger stigma attached because it was in some cultures it's tied to your masculinity, so you'll get more people not admitting to young men admitting or revealing SA with a man than he will with a woman. But now that we're more educated about it, we've come to realize it. Is SA. It doesn't matter whether it's a man or a woman. So there's
Right.
that one thing that's going on. The second thing is, he talks about the body. He talks about your body telling the truth if your words don't match what's really going on. And what he meant by that is, if you're just being performative and pretending you're okay, it's your body that reacts with stress, with illness, with breakdowns. So
Right.
what he's basically trying to say is the body exposes what your mouth is not saying.
Right.
And another thing that he said is silence isn't golden, no pun intended. Basically, he was saying being silent is dangerous, and he
Right.
said what you don't speak. There was a quote: "What you don't speak out, you will act out."
Right.
Um, he's also talking about the secrecy of the trauma secrecy and the black community, and the fact that he kept silent out of fear of what his family would do, and protecting his family in case they would go to prison, which sounds like they probably would have been right.
Right.
um, and overall, what I would generally say, he's talking about the fact that peace does not come from success, like money, relationships, and all those good things. You can still feel grief, anger, and pain, uh, but you can have peace, and it's not from having material things.
Right.
And also, that silence really with and suppressed trauma are really bad for you. So it's about allowing yourself to have these feelings, to talk about them, to let them out eventually. It's a good idea. I mean, that's really what I took from the whole video. It's a great video, short clip, but it's great video. And it's really about peace being internal rather than external. I know that was a bit long-winded, but there's quite a lot in that 10-minute video.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, no, it's not long-winded at all. Yeah, we took a lot from that video just within, short conversations and whatnot. You still can get a lot of education, knowledge from it, and understanding, of things. Um, I agree with everything you said. A lot of all of these conversations that came up within that video are very prevalent to things that, very many of us witness, we see, we've heard from others, and things of that nature. So, these are serious conversations that I think need to be had in a responsible and like a loving way. You know what I mean? And if you can find, a space where you feel comfortable to have those said conversations and be really open and honest and truthful about some of these things, I think that's how you break the barrier of some of, the whatever it may be that you're holding on to, the fear, the shame, whatever. You have to release that, right? Because it's like it's a spirit or a toxin that's just moving around within your body and your spirit that you're not releasing because you're not calling its name. Like, you know, respectfully, me and you and mom and stuff, we have the same religion. Like I said, anybody else's religion that may be different, we respect that over here as long as it's within the light. But when we talk about, and you see sometimes like exorcism movies and things of that nature where there's a demonic spirit or something that is like wrestling with your, body, almost like physically tearing your body apart, tearing your body down, tearing your spirit down. You need to be exorcised from that spirit. You have to get it off of you and up out of you. And the main way you do that is by naming it by name and speaking directly to what it is and who it is and what it's all about. You have to call these things out to be able to face them. And if you don't name them, you don't call them out, you don't face them properly, then you're never really going to be able to extract it up out of your spirit and about your proximity. You know what I mean? It's going to just stick and lash onto you forever because you're not calling it out. You're not challenging it. You're not, you know what I'm saying? Shining a light on it to get rid of it. You have to do that. And a lot of times what comes with doing that is being open and honest and truly dealing with it in a healthy and a proper way. Right. And like he said, not being performative about doing those things, actually putting in the work to do it. And when you are doing that, your body shows it more than your mouth can speak it. So I thought that was very interesting to hear and listen to within that conversation. But right now, it looks like we at the 52-minute mark. So if you have any final thoughts on this topic, you can go ahead, Imani. If not, I'm going to take a quick song break, and then we will get into our next topic. We'll be hearing some from Dr. Umar Johnson, and he has a lot to, talk about on this interview he was in, like he always does. As far as us as, our community, the Black community and Black people. So.
There's only one thing I would say, and I heard this somewhere from someone. It talked about generational curses are really generational secrets, which we shouldn't still keep.
He did say that too. He said that too.
Yeah. And that's something we got to get away from. But yeah, I think it's time for a little music break. And yeah, there was a lot, but it was, a very short video with a lot of information. So it was great.
Yeah, and I do agree with that. Generational curses is nothing more than generational secrets. Okay, at some point, you're going to have to pull back that rug and sweep up all that mess from under it, or rip that Band-Aid off and deal with that wound properly. And so that's all a generational curse is. It just keeps getting, shielded and shielded and shielded. And then the entire family is now in on shielding it, hiding it, and keeping it a secret as well. So it gets passed down from generation to generation to generation. And I thought that was a very great statement that he made. It makes a lot of sense. But let's take this quick song break, y'all, and we will be right back. We'll get into Dr. Umar when we come back after this song. Thank y'all for joining. Talk to y'all in just a bit.
Yo, same old story, different page. Same damn ink, got my own people on the corner pushing me to the brink. Willie Lynch laughing from his grave. See the strategist still working. Got the feel against the house, same jealousy still lurking. They put a price on our heads, now we do it for the free. Another brother falls and you posting RIP. But last week you was plotting on his shine, trying to dim his light. That crab in a barrel sickness is a generational plight. They gave us chains made of iron, we traded them for gold. But a chain is still a chain when your soul has been sold. We bleed on the same concrete, cry the same tears in the dark, but tear each other down for a temporary spark. That's the mark. Yeah, we just echoes in the barrel, ain't we? Spin around in circles, see the history so faintly. They handed us a script, then we playing every call you a sellout when you make it past the curb. But the real sellout's the one who lets the poison disturb. The unity, the progress, the power in our voice. Trading loyalty for clout, man, that ain't a choice. That's a trap in this anger that we hold in our chest. From years of being cornered, from passing every test, we turn it on each other, the easiest to reach. Instead of at the system that's been sucking us like a leech. You mad cause this watch gleaming, you mad cause the bag new. While the ones who built the prison sitting back and watching you. They love to see the chaos, love to see the rage misdirected. Another headline, another life tragically ejected. Yeah. Echoes in the barrel and we spin around in circles. See the history so faintly. They handed us the script and we playing every part. Yeah, it's time to break the cycle. Gotta mend the broken heart. This ain't the dream they marched for. This ain't the future they was seeing. This whole damn thing's a setup. It's time we started freeing.
All right, y'all. So thanks for rocking with me for that little song break right there. We're going to go ahead and get to the next topic. And so, like I said, basically, we're going to be listening to a conversation right now with Dr. Umar. And, you know, some people like Dr. Umar, some people don't. Some people agree with what he says, some people don't agree. I know it'll be mixed, you know, responses when it comes to it. And that is okay. That's, you know, we have the right to do that. But I did hear a few things that he was saying, and, you know, I thought it was a good conversation for us to be able to listen to together and, you know, just share some of our thoughts and feelings and opinions on what the discussion was. So let's go ahead and get into it. As I told y'all before, but I will remind you what this will be about. When it comes to Dr. Umar, he's talking a lot about identity politics and some strategic divides that he feels as though are happening within the Black community. So let's go ahead and listen to a little bit of this together, y'all, and then we'll take a break and do our commentary, and we'll be right back. I'm going to start out with the audio for now, okay? So we'll meet y'all in the chat.
Black hate. Is black hate natural or is it engineered?
And you mean self-hate?
Self-hate.
It's engineered. And it's been engineered in us so deeply from the plantation through current times. And I'm going to include through the Black church because of the images of white Jesus. That self-alienation, you can't overlook that. I'm going to say that it's now a part of the culture. You're expected to be disagreeable with Black people. You're expected to have Black enemies. You're expected to crash out when you get disrespected by Black people. So we've gotten to a point where we have made it popular. In fact, Black self-hate is so ingrained into our culture that it's almost impossible to sell or become popular without it. Look at music and hip hop. If you ain't got a good beef going on, you might not sell no records, right?
Right.
Look at the TVs, Tyler Perry. Movies often involved in male-female relationship conflict, right? Look at the reality shows. It's all conflict. The Housewives, it's all conflict. Black culture thrives on conflict. And that's why I'm calling the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy heaven on earth. Because when you come here, there is no conflict. Everybody respects everybody. And the first time you introduce it, you're banned from the campus. Book of Negroes. I'm not playing.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm telling everybody that right now. Get your mind right, or you're going to be out of here. And you're going to have to retrain the children out of that, right? So at FDMG, I have to teach them how not to be negative with your own. I have to teach them how not to disrespect your own. Because remember, I originally wanted a residential school, but we couldn't afford it. The reason I wanted a residential school is because I know many of our homes are toxic. If it's a Muslim home, you might look down on Christians. If it's a Christian home, you might look down on Muslims. If it's a hip hop home, you might look down on anybody who can't afford to buy what you're wearing, right? So we got to teach our children that's not what we value. We don't value sneakers in here. We don't value hair color, right? We don't value yellow skin versus dark skin. We value Africans and we value human life. We have to retrain the value system that our young people have, because right now they value social media more than life. Attention is the new drug, and they are willing to embarrass themselves to get it. Look at the amount of adults you see on the internet not getting paid, embarrassing themselves for attention.
No, it's a lot. And something that I think about often is it the adults, the older people who may seem lost? Is it too late for them, or should we just focus?
It's never too late. It's never too late. Remember, there's an African proverb that says, if God were done with African people, he would never allow another woman to get impregnated. When God is done, there's no more birth. That's when you know God done. Every time you see somebody pregnant, that's a chance for us to get it right. Okay? Now, here's the thing, though. Although it's never too late to save someone, the older they get, the more difficult it becomes.
Absolutely.
So, for example, when we're trained, and I'm trained in cognitive behavioral therapy, my doctorate in clinical psychology, CBT orientation, they train you that when you're doing therapy, your first session, you have to decide if the patient really wants to change. Because if they don't, why are you wasting your time and their money? You feel me?
Right.
Because the psychologists don't change you. We are the tour guide through your problems to help you change yourself.
Right.
So if they don't want to change, because you can't make them, why are you wasting their time? So when you say, is it too late for the adults? No. But do they really want to change? Think about it. Most cigarette smokers who try to quit won't quit because they really don't want to. Most drug addicts who try to quit won't quit because they really don't want to. Most women who go in and out of abusive cyclical relationships are not going to change because they really don't want to. They really rather have a man, even if he's abusive, than to have nobody. And this ain't about sex, it's loneliness. It's validation, right?
Right.
So if somebody been smoking 10 years, crack 10 years, abusive relationships 20 years, and they not likely to change, what do you think for someone who suffers from the intergenerational trauma of self-hatred, of post-traumatic slavery disease? If the cigarette smoker can't stop and he only been smoking 10 years, this Negro is the result of intergenerational trauma. How hard you think it's going to be to crack that code? You follow what I'm saying?
I do.
The best intervention is prevention. And that's why we need our own schools. As long as Black people.
All right, so we'll take a commentary break right there. So that was a lot said, just within the first few minutes or so of the video. And for me, I see exactly what he's saying and where he's coming from, right? As far as when it comes to individuals, and this was the one that stuck with me the most. Individuals, when you have to get to a point where you realize, like, however you are and however you move and operate, you are very much happy and comfortable with that. And you don't see a need to change and you don't want to change. So it doesn't matter what people say to you. It doesn't matter how people address you. It doesn't even matter if you go and see, like a clinical or a psychologist or a therapist or anything like that. What he's saying is that's your first, assessment of a person. You have to see, does this person really want to do better? Does this person really want to change? Do they want to be different? Because if not, why waste both of our time? This is time I could be spending with another patient that wants to change. This is time you could be spending just doing what it is you already want to do, because you really don't want to be here and there's nothing that I can do or give you, within this session anyway, because you already have your mind made up as to what it is you want to do and who you want to be and how you want to operate. So I thought that that was a very good point that he made, amongst other points as well. As far as, it's never too late to change. It's never too late to turn this thing around, no matter what your age is. But Imani, what do you think about some of the things that we heard so far?
Sorry, I had to unmute there.
It's okay.
It's an interesting conversation, and it's a conversation a lot of people would avoid because it's uncomfortable. Um, the first thing he's talking about is division within the Black community, and he's trying to come kind to relate to the fact that it's been created over time and it's been shaped over time. And he's also asking who benefits from this division. So the and he talks about the division being about self hate, and it's not an accidental thing. Um, and it's, what did he call it? Post traumatic slavery disorder, which I thought was a good acronym to
Right.
use. And he
Right.
says, it's happened over generations, from slavery, social systems, and even the imagery we have of ourselves. So it's become part of the culture.
Right.
um, and it's become normalized. And because it's become normalized, you stop questioning it. You stop
Right.
questioning it. So he says, whether you agree or you disagree, it is part of our culture, and our conflicts have become entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
He talks about the music, reality TV, where conflict is constant and that makes money, but it doesn't make money for us, it makes money for other people, because
Mm-hmm.
conflict sells and unity doesn't get as much. Even, I mean, we notice this all around us. Unity
Yeah.
doesn't pay.
Of course.
It's not as valuable. It's quite boring to people. And
Right.
so it creates this cycle of what people want, what people consume. Um, and he talks about the values that we're teaching to our young people. Is, that we don't value academia.
Right.
We value appearance, status, and social media attention. And I think there's a lot of truth in what he's saying, and a lot of internal stuff that we need to look at, because attention, like he said, is currency now. you know and when it's if attention is the currency, it changes the behaviors.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of what he says is very true. But he's also asking the question, can people change? Well, people can change if their behaviors are pointed out, but um you have to choose. You have to choose to want that change.
Exactly.
That's what I got from a lot of what he was saying. I don't know if that's what you heard.
Of course, of course. And I love that you brought up, those other topics around what he was saying as well, because those are important as well. Very, very, very important, because we see a lot of that, in many of the places and spaces that we may be and we go, that we are living in a current day and age now where, it's all about the performance. The performance is what's beneficial. The performance is what brings monetization, and when it comes to attention and performance, and typically when it comes to those type of things, it's always based negatively, right? So like he's talking about, the reality TV shows. What are you really getting positive out of those shows? You're watching people that don't get along with each other. They come in sometimes on like episode one, season one, already, structured to not like each other. And so then fights break out. And then when the fights break out and the drama and the chaos starts, the ratings go up. But there's never any, like, friendships, happily ever afters. What people are waiting to see is, the fight, the argument, the drinks being thrown, all of the chaos of it all, right? And even if they do have one positive episode the entire season, it's probably the episode that gets the lowest amount of, views and reviews and stuff. Whatever is going to be negative and toxic, that is what people enjoy. That's what they gravitate towards. That's what they'll pay for. That is what they want to see. The positive things is not what they want to see. And I think most people across the board by this time now, being in a space where you now are someone who is creating content, you're putting stuff out there to see what's going to stick and what people are going to gravitate to and what they won't. I think if you pay close enough attention to that, you can clearly see that the negative and the lies, the chaos, all of that, anything that is under an umbrella of anything negative, that is what people are running to see with their popcorn and their drinks. But anything positive being talked about, right, that can help, that can heal, that can change, that can push things in a direction forward for us to be better as people, and not just talking about Black people, human beings in general. People are not really interested in that. And so we see that on multiple different, outlets, not just here on, YouTube, but we see that in Hollywood. We see that in the music industry. We see that in, all different aspects of entertainment. What entertains people is chaos, negativity, and toxicity. And I think that is a person's problem, like to really figure out and look deep down inside themselves and see why is it that we gravitate more so towards that sometimes, And I remember a while back, I had to be honest with myself, and I was like, yo, I keep finding myself like watching content is like, and I found myself back in that position again. Like, why am I gravitated towards like stuff that's like chaos all the time? Like, I know that I don't want to be this person. I know that this is really not really the type of stuff that I want to indulge in, but for some reason I keep get pulled back into it. And if you're just a viewer, then you may not necessarily be getting any monetization out of just viewing something, but you have to ask yourself, why does it entertain me and feed my spirit and my soul so much to engage and interact with this type of, like content, energy, whatever? There's something going on within, right, or with you that is gravitating you towards that type of content. And so that's why I think a lot of times we have to look into the mirror sometimes, of our own lives and how we move and operate, because a lot of the choices and decisions in the places and spaces that we choose to go and end up in is based off of whatever it is we got going on, what energy we got bubbling up inside us, and thoughts and feelings we may be having at the time. It is a us thing, right, as to why we get gravitated towards this stuff, because nobody's forcing you. They're not pulling your leg. They're not holding you at unsafe points or anything with weapons or anything to force you to come in, but you're taking yourself there. You have to ask, what part of me is gravitating me towards going towards this type of stuff, right? If I know that deep down this is not really what I like, it's not what I want to do, I'm sick and fed up with it, but yet I still keep finding myself in these places. That can't be a other person's problem. That's a you problem. And you got to look in the mirror and figure out, why do I keep, frequently visiting these places? You know what I mean? So anyway, that's just a little bit on that. But let's get back to the interview, and we'll have another commentary break in just a minute. All right, here we go.
Are comfortable with white people teaching their children, not only will we never see change, we don't really want it.
Yeah. What do you suggest for a person like me? I don't have what you have, which is FDMG. I don't have. We don't have one of those here.
You have to work on yourself. self-transformation. Difficult, but possible.
Right.
And most great people who've changed, Malcolm X is a good example, they did it on their own without a therapist. You feel me?
Yeah.
But you have to subject yourself to the most critical self-scrutiny you've ever been subjected to, because your obstacle is your ego. The ego never wants to be held accountable. The ego never wants to accept defeat. The ego never wants to recognize when it's wrong.
Right.
You follow me? The ego is always trying to find a way to justify what it did, right? It's like you go cheat on your queen and you know you shouldn't have.
Right.
Your ego can't deal with that pain of the guilt and the shame. So the ego is going to find some excuse. Maybe she ain't cooking no more. She ain't, you follow me?
Yeah.
Because the ego does not do well with accountability. So when you decide to take on yourself, that's your spirit taking on your ego for the Super Bowl championship.
Yeah. So when it comes to the children, though, since we don't have a Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy here, we don't have that type of resources here in Murfreesboro. We just, when it comes to white teachers, that's kind of all we have.
We need to give them our time now. There's been research that shows if a black child has a black man in their face for only an hour a week, it can completely stop them from entering the school to prison pipeline, right?
Right.
So even if we don't have the school, we can at least start a book club for them, a rites of passage for them, an after school program for them. My issue with black men, we don't spend time with black boys.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna go a step further, because when I look at the internet and YouTube, right, everybody's talking about relationships.
Right.
Why aren't we talking about how to save our children? Even the men, they out here giving relationship coaching. I'm not against it. It's cool, right? I do it sometimes. But I ain't heard you do one show on saving boys yet.
Yeah.
So you so worried about the vagina. What about the children that come from it? You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
How many podcasts have you seen talk seriously on how to save our young people?
Not many.
Because you do know there's an African proverb that says, if the village doesn't take care of the children will burn the village to the ground.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they're doing. Look at all the elders being robbed at the ATMs. You got 10 and 11-year-olds pulling out guns on great grandmoms.
Crazy.
You follow me? Because we don't take care of them.
Yeah.
The elders have to. It started with the 70s and the 80s, because that's when the so-called desegregation campaign really took sway. Remember, King is murdered in 68. So there is no deseg in the 60s, right?
Right.
It's the 70s. Once white people start giving us proximity to whiteness, we lost our damn mind and forgot about our infrastructure as a people.
Yeah.
So there are no griots no more. There's no more grandparents that sit you down and tell you what life was like before this.
Yeah.
You see? And then when crack and AIDS hit, it was over. We are still suffering the collateral damage of crack and AIDS. All these ADHD kids, they are the children and the grandchildren of the crack era. Their mother may have not been on drugs, but guess what? She was out in the streets chasing their father who was. You see that?
Yeah.
So we were all impacted by crack and AIDS. And you know what crack did that really hurt us? It destroyed, it eroded the trust we had with each other. When people started climbing into people's windows, stealing their television, and they live right next door, when people started stealing their children's sneakers off their feet in the street, you follow me? Remember, crack is hitting at the same time upward mobility into the white world is taking off. So black people are saying, I ain't got to deal with this crack mess. I'm just going to go to a white college, get me a white degree, get me a white job, and get me a white mortgage in a white suburb. Leaving our children without any responsible role models. The only reason why Drake and Kendrick are the role models, and I don't have a problem with Drake and Kendrick, but entertainers shouldn't be role models because y'all not going to fight for nothing.
I agree.
I like Kendrick, but he's not going to fight for nothing. Okay? Neither is Drake. But the reason they're the role models is because the doctors and the lawyers and the engineers and the pastors and the business owners, they all live in a white neighborhood.
Yeah. And it's funny that you say that because, and I actually wrote this down in my book, To Be Human. I wrote a book called To Be Human. And one of the things that I talked about is my uncle. He was a father figure to me. My father wasn't around. He dealt with alcohol and things like that as I was growing up. my uncle was around. He was one of the people that I looked to, and he was a crack addict. And I wrote in the book about how ultimately that impacted me in the way that I seen men. It made me more defiant towards older men and things like that. And luckily, and I don't know how you feel about this, I found the military. And it helped me in a lot of ways to reestablish my structure.
That structure, identity.
Because I did see Black men in leadership positions in the military that were able to correct me.
And in the hood, unfortunately, since most Black successful men are not in it, the people who are in leadership sometimes tend to be the brothers not doing the best things.
100%.
And so you emulate them because they all you got.
Yeah.
You're either in the inner city Black community or any Black community that's predominantly Black. The children have to get their role models from the television or from the criminals.
I want to ask you, so we here, and we were talking about me.
All right. So before we go on to the next, part of that conversation, what do you think about that so far, Emmanuel, what they said within this segment here?
Yeah, it's very interesting because he moves from talking about people can change if they want to and they choose to. But he says, obviously, if people have been doing the same thing for a long time, it's harder for them to change. So he switches his focus to the children. And the reason why he says the children, he says, because we can, we have them from young, we can teach them, and we should think about, rather than having to correct them later on in life and try and get them to change, we should think about prevention. Because if they don't have people to guide them, they create their own system, their own way of moving, their own way of navigating this life. And that's where you get, I think you and I were talking about this the other day, the prison pipeline.
Right. So, okay, and I've had some really good conversations about this as well, Carlos and whatnot. And he's busy today. He couldn't come by. This is like all the things that me and him talk about all the time, this type of stuff on his deep rooted level. But there's a level of truth to what Dr. Umar is saying. And then there's some things that we probably could, counter. You know what I'm saying? That's with any conversation. But let's just start off with like what he was saying that I think is very truthful when it comes to children within the community and period, right? So what we realize is, and what we have been realizing is that, from a very, well, it depends because some of us can be different ages and, different generations and whatnot. But within my generation, oh no, you're fine.
Sorry, did I dropped it out mid-sentence? No. I don't know where I got to.
No, it's fine.
Talking about the prison pipeline. And we need to guide the next generation. And what he's talking about, he said, the problem we have in our community is the only kind of role models that are created are people that are mainly in entertainment. And that's not a bad thing. But what he was actually expressing is that when we get the doctors, when we get the people with, non-entertainment careers, they tend to move out of our neighborhoods. So children don't see doctors, dentists, nurses, all these people with great careers because they've moved from the area into more affluent areas. And so the only thing they're seeing that is as a success, and I've got to stress, there's nothing wrong with the artistic profession. I have people in my family in it, but if it's the only thing you think you can become is a social media star or a rapper or a dancer, people are not seeing the academia and the successful Black academics, so they don't have that as the role models. So that was a really, really, really important point, that there's not only one way to be a success in our community.
I agree 100%. And I know it from like really living it. And like, not saying that because I'm, a female, I'm a girl, whatever. We typically, in certain predicaments and stuff or whatnot, it's not the same talking points. But what I know about a lot of young boys, that I've seen, based off of, where I was raised and I grew up and stuff like that, in our neighborhoods, in our communities, that is true. They try to do the best that they can, whether it's like, teachers, lawyers, police officers, whatever like that. They try to do the best that they can, right? To stay in those communities or whatnot, for the community, for the people. But what I've noticed is, well, once they start to do better, they obtain more, right? And if you're obtaining more, or you have more to lose, or you're fearful to lose, and you're staying in these type of communities, you just basically have gotten tired with the way the community moves and operates, like always having to look over your shoulder, always getting your car broken into, not knowing if somebody's going to crawl through your window and rob you, right? So they get tired of living in those type of predicaments. They've decided to make these choices and decisions to maybe go to college and better themselves, and do something different from just what is happening within these communities and these hoods. And if they stay in them, then they can now become a target of them, because now you're no longer us, because we see what you got, and you got more than us. And there's some people that's out there that look at them like, okay, well, now you think that you're better than us. And you could have people doing what they do, which is, as far as in certain hoods and communities, taking from the ones that have more, right? And so they didn't want to live in those predicaments, and so they started moving out of the communities, because they felt as though the choices that they made in their life to do better for their life, they can't no longer stay here. So now they move to communities where they don't have to worry about those things happening. They move to communities where there's HOAs and things of that nature. But there could be great pillars and examples for the youth coming up, but they're thinking about their own safety, their own well-being, and what they no longer want to put up with, because they probably put up with it too long in their life anyway, probably since they were young, and they just wanted to get away from it. And so we can talk about leaving a community, right? Because you feel as though you want to be in a safe position. What I would like to see more so is that you don't have to leave your community, because we do things within the community to make the communities unsafe, like not unsafe. So I think the problem boils down to a lot of people just chuck up the deuces and go. And that's a lot of some of what Umar says, instead of staying and standing 10 toes down and trying to see in what way you can aid and assist into fixing this community, making it better, making it safe. But one person or a few people who, may be on the right track and in the mindset cannot turn the entire community around, right? And we also have to pay attention to the fact that a lot of these communities are in the predicament that they're in, not because of the individuals that live in them, but because of how they have orchestrated to create these communities to basically keep like mice or rats trapped. You know what I'm saying? Like, they've created these communities to be this way, so these people can never do better, so they can never get more, so they can never achieve more. If they do, it's like 1 out of 10, 2 out of 10, and those are the ones that obtain that, they get that, and they like, I want to get away from this life because I know there's more to life than this. But the communities remain the same. And a lot of that, yeah, it does have to do with the individuals that move and operate and live within those communities, and what they do while they're there. But a lot of it also has to do with how they became that way in the first place. I remember the city that I lived in and I grew up in, previously to me being born, that city was not a predominantly Black city, right? That area was not predominantly Black. It wasn't a hood. It wasn't a ghetto. It wasn't any of those things, right? It was actually, a very nice little, like, decent running town and city, okay? But it, they started seeing that there were too many Black or African American people that were living within that city. And so once the Black and African American people overpopulated the city, they no longer cared about it. And so because they didn't care about Black and African American people, they didn't care about, the structure of the city and the area they lived in. So when streets are, cracking and breaking down, there's potholes everywhere, they're not sending anybody out to fix that. When houses are being burned down, they're not sending anybody out to renovate them. And it can be, like in the city I grew up in, we have row houses. So if one house catches fire, maybe multiple ones catch fire as well too, because they're all in a row. They're not sending anybody out to renovate that and fix that back up for the neighborhood, the community, with the school systems and stuff like that. Who takes the budget cuts first? Are they going to cut the budgets at the predominantly white schools? Are they going to cut the budgets at the predominantly black schools? The black schools lose first. So they, like all of these things tie into not just necessarily what we do as a people. It does hold some weight, but there is a structural system as to how, they just don't care because of the individuals that reside and take up the most space in these areas, right? They don't get done the same way that other areas get done that are not predominantly urban or black. And so if that's all, the neighborhood is ever going to be and continuously remains to be for a period of time, there are people that are like, I want to get away from that. I don't want to live that way no more. I don't want to live in this neighborhood no more. I don't want to be around this stuff no more. And most of people only reason for staying in that type of predicament is because they do not have, the finances or the education or, what I'm saying, the income that they need to get away from living in those type of areas. Now, some people will stay 10 toes down and not care, like, and still want to give back to the community
Not
and
me.
and all of that. See what I'm saying? So it's like it's not too unreasonable to understand why people want to get out of those situations, especially if you grew up that way and you lived that way for so many years of your life, and you like, I'm tired of this. Like, I don't want to live like this. I got to get away from this. You can't blame people for wanting that. You know what I'm
It's
saying?
true. Can I just interject here?
Yeah.
I mean,
Go ahead.
in the UK, we have you call it the projects, we call it council estates. And I remember when I was young, broke, and childless, I used to live on what was the project or a council estate. And the estate was so bad, it had so many trap houses in there that the postman or the mailman would not deliver your mail. You had to go and collect it from the office.
Mm-hmm.
Doctors, when you called out a doctor, because we have like a doctor's call out service when the surgery's closed, where they used to come and visit you in your home.
Mm-hmm.
They refused to go there. In fact, it was so bad, even the police would not come into that place. And
Mm-hmm.
I kid you not, I understand what you're saying, because do you think I stayed there after I had enough money to move out? No, of course I didn't.
Right.
Because what they did was, how they housed people was, they built these things that were supposed to be the best things since sliced bread, with heating, indoor, central heating and whatever. But they ghettoized it by moving similar types of family with very little money and a lot of need into the same place. So
Right.
everything was concentrated in the same place, and anybody who could get out got out as fast as they can.
Right.
And and that's just a natural thing. If you're
Yeah.
earning a lot of money, you're not going to stay there and be the richest person in the project so that they can break into your house every day because people have a need. You're going to get the hell out of Dodge. and
Right.
and and I understand that. So there is a kind of catch-22 situation, and there's no real halfway house. So I do understand people wanting to level up and move out.
Yeah.
Um, so, but one thing I will say that they created, or they changed when they rebuilt some of these estates, they made them, they had less stories, like less floors on them, less walkways, so that people could create that kind of trap house
Mm-hmm.
effect. That
Okay.
they made it so it was more residential, and there's a lot more that, like, before they used to have like 21 stories, and believe you me, you'd be afraid to get into the elevator because you didn't know who would be coming in on the next floor. But they
Right.
created things of only 4 stories, They weren't as high rise. They were more, more gardens, more play areas. So they did rethink that idea because initially in the 70s, when they started building those council estates, it was to house as many people as they can. So, yeah, that's just, a little tidbit for myself, really, and my experience growing
No,
up.
I totally agree. And that's why I was saying, like, with that comment, I get, what he's saying is like, we don't have any of these people in the communities anymore. So, the ones that are left, they have no one to look up to because, the ones that go on to do better for themselves or, attempt to do better for themselves, they don't want to be around that anymore. They don't want to live in those predicaments. And they probably grew up in neighborhoods like that their entire life and they've just gotten sick and tired of it. And so their way out was going to college. It was getting a degree. It was getting a profession so they can have a better tomorrow than their yesterday. And, can you really sit there and blame somebody for making that choice? No, I don't think you can. And I don't think you can blame, what is still going on in some of these communities and stuff on individuals like that who just chose themselves. Now, there's some that do stay and they rock and roll with the punches and stuff like that. But overall to say like, could they come back? Could they do programs? Could they set up shops or, like organizations and things like that? If that's for what they want to do, you know what I mean? Like, it's got to be up to what these people want to do. If somebody doesn't want to do that or they don't see no care in doing it, then they won't. And then there's some people that do. Like, they may move out of the community and live in a different community and they have enough money where they go back to the neighborhoods where they grew up and they do programs, they set up organizations, they might do food drives, clothes drives, toy drives. I see a lot of those things happening. And, we cannot just say like, no one is doing these things, no one is trying, no one's helping. No, there's people out there that are doing it. It may not be on the masses level as what others expect it to be, but it is happening, right? So anyway, let's keep going with a little bit more of conversation and then we'll come back. We'll have to move on because we have a few other topics we'll be getting into. We'll be getting into Iyanla Vanzant. She has some things to say. We'll find out what's going on over there with Nia Long and her fighting this pay dispute with Lionsgate. And we'll also hear how, DL Hughley is, not really feeling Killer Mike right now because it seems like he switched up his energy only once he found out that, voter repression is now being in place. So let's keep going with a little bit more of this and we will be right back.
Music, but we hear this in music and in interviews all the time where Black people say we need to be more unified or organized like the Jews. Is that fair considering that we had 300 years of oppression versus 5 years of a Holocaust?
You can't compare the two. You can't compare the two. Because through Zionism, they will never.
Okay, real quick, y'all. I gotta take a pause. Now, on this portion of the conversation, there is a comparison that has been brought to the forefront of the conversation, right? And I know that one of these groups of people is like, it's almost like you can't say, you can't talk, whatever. It's taboo. What they're conversing about and speaking on within this conversation, because I've already pre-listened to it, it doesn't give like disrespectful to me, right? It just gives a comparison that I think is really important for us to see and witness and hear, right? And within this conversation, this is not the first time that this has been, brought to the forefront and questioned, right? When it comes to, like, let's just say African American or Black community, and then another community, right? There's a lot of comparisons between the two. Historically, there's a lot of differences between the two. When it comes to the level of demanding respect and getting a certain level of respect, there's a lot of differences between that as well. And I think it's very important for us to get down to the root and the nitty gritty as to why that is, and what people think and feel about it. I think it should be an open floor for conversation without any type of backlash or, anyone feeling as though, anything is being done wrong just because there's an open floor to have conversation about, the transparency between the two different sides. So again, y'all, I have this banner up here. It's the extreme trigger warning, but we also do have our copyright warning as well. And these are the thoughts, feelings, opinions, and speaking engagements of Dr. Umar and the platform that he's on. So everything that he may say or they may discuss doesn't mean that represents this channel, me, Imani, Mama Warrior, any of us over here on that side. This is the conversation that they are having. And I feel as though we should be free and open to listen to these conversations without, any type of fear of pushback or,
Backlash.
yeah, that's the word, backlash. So I just wanted to, because I already heard where this is going, and I just want to make it very clear, like, please, 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 like, can we just have the conversation? You know what I mean? Hear the conversation. That's all. But yeah. So let's just go ahead and do this and see, because it's a really good conversation. I like for us to hear these type of things. But yeah, Dr. Umar's thoughts, feelings, and opinions in words, not a representation of this channel, me, Imani, or Mama Warrior. Just wanted to get that out. Okay, let's keep going.
Struggle. You follow me? They will never struggle. They control this country.
Right.
Right? And they have a country they call their own Israel.
Absolutely.
That was made specifically for them, which was their reparations. Because you have very few people who survived the Holocaust who are still alive. So the people living in Israel now are not Holocaust survivors.
Right.
These are the descendants of Holocaust survivors. So you can't tell Black freedmen that you don't have a right to reparations because you yourself was not in chains when you got Israelis who were not in the Holocaust and they still got the benefit of Israel. But you can't compare the two. They helped enslave us. They built the ships. They built the banks. They started the insurance firms that insured us.
Yeah.
They were some of the biggest enslavers. The Secretary of War for the Confederacy, if I'm not mistaken, he owned like 200 Blacks and he was a Jew. It was all through this. They used to sell us in synagogues, right on the front steps, right? So you can't compare the two because we never participated in their Holocaust, but we did help to save them.
Yeah.
There were Black men in World War II who helped liberate European Jews from some of the most notorious, risking their life, some of the most notorious concentration camps. They never get a thank you, right? Don't forget, Israel supported South Africa during the apartheid boycott. They were still sending them weapons. They were still sending them money. Look what just happened the other day at the United Nations when President John Mahama of Ghana, who's my president because I'm a Ghanaian citizen, he finally got the United Nations to recognize our enslavement as the greatest crime against humanity, right? Look who voted against it. Argentina, who had a Bloqueamiento whitewash campaign years ago, United States and Israel. You want Black people to cry tears for your Holocaust, and you voted against our slavery being recognized on the international court, right? So you can't compare the two.
Yeah.
They have.
All righty, Monty, we back, bro. We got to take a quick little comment break. So you're a historian. I do a little historian. Now, as far as Umar is saying, when it comes to this conversation, which I know is very, very taboo, and it's unfortunately that these type of conversations can be taboo because if we're talking history, if we're talking truth, I believe that those conversations need to be had. What is your thoughts and feelings on what Dr. Umar said so far about this?
There's a lot of sensitivity around this.
It's very sensitive.
Yeah, I rather than talk about the comparison or the struggle of who was the oppression struggle, what I would take it to, I really would like to focus on, is the conversation about reparations, which everybody has a big groan about. But let's just talk about this. The thing about the Holocaust, it was real, it happened. But the thing about what happened was the reparations were paid and are still being paid to this day by people that oppressed the Jewish people in the Holocaust. Reparations have never been paid to African Americans for slavery. And in fact, people don't even realize this, but the UK government was still paying compensation to the families of slave owners, not slaves, slave owners, right up until 2018. Yes, 2018, they were still compensating the Treasury, the UK Treasury was still compensating the family of slave owners until somebody in the Treasury leaked the information. People didn't actually know. They were still compensating the family of slave owners for the loss of their slaves. That's the UK government. So if we want to compare who's been compensated for the sufferation that happened through being enslaved, through being oppressed, through being slaughtered, Black people have not been compensated at any time, and it's still a big struggle for them to even recognize slavery. I'm not going to blame a particular culture for how they vote. It's factual that it is allowed to happen, that they refuse to recognize how many bodies there may be, and trigger warning, that were thrown off those slave ships, how many people died, how many, there is no number. The real number has never been told, and it's a lot bigger than people think. So that's where I sit in this. Yeah, I'm not in here saying our people suffered more than your people, because I don't want to do that pain comparison. I want to do the comparison, the economic comparison,
Right.
the
And
economic comparison.
I have just a bit of information about that on this particular topic. So I'm just going to read through a few notes that I took when it comes to, that exactly as you said. So, number one, if this is going to be a difficult conversation to have, I do apologize. But we do have to talk about the, precedent, and we can talk about the Luxembourg Agreement. Okay. So let's look at the facts here. Okay. And y'all know who we're talking about. We can't say it. That's even crazy to me. Like, you can't even say the word, or you could be flagged. But let's look at the facts. So after World War II, the state of Israel and the Claims Conference negotiated directly with West Germany. In 1952, they signed the Luxembourg Agreement. So formal claims began in 1945, meaning that this group of people could make claims in 1945, immediately after the World War ended. Now, what was the direct impact? Payments were made to individuals, survivors who were still living, as well as to the state of Israel, to help resettle refugees, right? So if you think about refugees, it would be the same as free slaves. Free slaves, aka refugees, right? Both coming from a traumatic situation, trying to find a new settlement and a new tomorrow. But right now, we're talking about, what group of people. So the total to date, Germany has paid out over $80 billion in various forms of compensation, right? To go towards the resettlement of refugees, and also, like Dr. Umar said, actually established an entire area for these people to be safe and live and claim to be their own, right? Now, let's talk about Black American reality and the long delay. Now, if we compare that to the Black American experience, we're looking at over 250 plus years of chattel slavery, followed by 100 years of Jim Crow. And we are still in the study phase. So what is the time defense? One of the main arguments used against us, that too much time has passed, right? Get over it. That was way back then. Those times have come and gone, because the direct victims of slavery are no longer living or alive. The system argues that that debt has expired when those individuals have, unfortunately, RIP, expired. But here's the legal loophole. The US government often argues that because slavery was legal at the time, they have no legal obligation to pay for it today. Now, here's the wealth gap. Experts estimate that it would take between $10 trillion to $12 trillion to actually close the racial wealth gap created by these centuries of stolen labor. Well, child, that's a lot of money. And that's apparently why I guess they don't want to pay. But let's talk about the difference in political will. So Why did Germany pay? Well, the fact is, paying reparations was West Germany's ticket back into the civilized world after Nazis. It was a political move to gain acceptance from Western powers. In the United States, however, the government has recently voted against UN resolutions that would define the slave trade as the gravest crime against humanity. So there is this stance of we have to deny how crucial and how grave what we did to this group of people are. And so if we try to put anything in place to basically, make it fair or make up for what we did, that's us having to admit how grave what we did was to those people. So there's a strategic refusal to admit the full scale of the crime because they know that the bill is too high to pay. And also, they know that dollar amount is high, right? So the lesson here is that reparations aren't just about guilt, they're about leverage. Now, we have a certain community that was able to secure reparations for their community because they had the political and international pressure to demand them immediately. They had other forces working on their side. What did African American or Black slaves have working on their side when it comes to anything political, even when it comes to internationalism, right? The trap we fall into thinking is that if we just explain our pain enough, the system will eventually feel bad and pay us. That's not how it works. And it's not how they're seeming to, see it. History shows that doesn't happen. We know that doesn't happen because it hasn't happened. So we have to stop asking for understanding and just start building stuff on our own. The institutional and economic leverage that makes it impossible for the government to ignore the debt. This is what Umar does talk about a lot. And I think a lot of people overlook because they're too focused on, his school and the talks around all of that, not being real, the scam, whatever. But he makes great sense when he says this because you have to have something to leverage. A lot of people know this. People who work in finance know this. You have to have something to leverage to get something back. So local task forces like the one right now in Fulton County, Georgia, are trying to bridge this gap. But the federal fight will continue. We aren't asking for handouts. We are checking the balance on debt that is centuries overdue. And so this goes to show us, to me, in my personal opinion, that despite the tragedies, right, despite how terrible both groups of people were treated, right, because I take nothing away from the Holocaust and how terrible and nasty work that was, how slaves and Black ancestors of mine and some of y'all out there were treated, and free labor and all of this, mistreatment to them also happened as well. They still do not see us to be in a place to have the leverage to put anything or get anything as far as reparations out of the struggle and the blood and sweat and tears that our ancestors have poured into not just where they were on those plantations at the time, but in this country that I live in, which is the United States. And so this is what we're dealing with when we talk about inequality, right? And so that's a little bit of tidbit right there. We'll move right on. Let's let Dr. Umar talk a little bit more, and then we'll take another conversation break.
Never been through what we've been through, and they have helped participate in what we've been through.
Mm-hmm. So how do you feel when you see like artists and rappers that their approach, they want to they think we should be together and through them or emulate them, we can have.
We don't need to emulate them. We had unity before them. Mm-hmm. You follow me? Mm-hmm. We don't need to emulate nobody. We are the original creators of culture. Mm-hmm. We built the first civilizations. We don't need to emulate anyone. We need to practice saying, Kofa, go back and get what we lost. Mm-hmm. We don't need to copy nobody. Everybody copying us.
Yeah, I agree.
Most of what's in the Torah was copied from African culture, right? Mm-hmm. So no, we don't need to imitate nobody.
I want to ask you, how are immigrants able to outpace Black Americans economically?
The reason immigrants are able to outpace Black Americans economically, two things. Mm-hmm. Number one, they have cultural unity. We don't.
Okay.
They stick together. A Chinese will see another Chinese, he gonna help him. Yeah. He ain't got to know him. Yeah. A Mexican gonna help another Mexican. A Jew gonna help another Jew. A Black person won't help his brother.
Yeah.
See? Yeah. That's one. We don't care about the group. We are a collection of radical individuals. No unity. That's one. You need cultural connectivity in order to build power. Power is the gate around your culture. You keep it to yourself. So that's number one. No unity. Can't build power without unity. No loyalty. Number two, they can get financing. They can go into any bank in America and get a loan.
Yeah.
East Indians, Arabs, Chinese, Jews, Latinos, we can't. Nobody wants to see Black people rise, which is why I'm so disappointed that for the past 30, 40 years, we pushed the narrative of multiculturalism. Multiculturalism means we all together.
Right.
Since when? Nobody likes us, but we keep on speaking for everybody. Even with, look at what just happened with Jasmine Crockett. She fought hard for the immigrants, and they went to the election polls and voted for a white man. Look at that. They do not like you. You will never be repaid for the good you do to an immigrant. And I'm not talking about the Black ones. I'm talking about all the non-Black ones. You will never be repaid for the good you do for an immigrant. People don't come to America to be grouped with Blacks. They come to America to replace Blacks because America has already made it clear to the world. We don't like these people and we don't want these people. If you're Black in America and you think America tells the world they care about you, you're insane.
Yeah.
You are insane. If you live in any country and turn on the news, you know America can't stand Blacks.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. And
even when we've been at war, Vietnam, Kuwait, Iraq, even now with the Iranian thing, sometimes they don't even want to shoot Black soldiers because they know you're fighting for a country who made you come here.
Yeah.
You follow? In Vietnam, I have an elder who was in Vietnam, right? One of my closest elders. He said them Vietnamese would come up to us and say, why y'all even here?
Yeah.
The whole world knows white America don't like you. But guess what? On July 4th, 2026, I promise you there will be Black people in downtown Philadelphia celebrating America's 250th birthday.
Oh, yeah.
I promise you it will be Black people packed in my birth city to celebrate America's 250th birthday this year. Even with Donald Trump in the United States voting down slavery as the worst crime against humanity. And you know what? I don't hear too many Black elected officials saying much about it either.
All right, y'all. So we're going to have our final talking point on that conversation. I'm going to leave the rest of that for y'all to listen to on your own because it is very long. I'll put the link in the description box. But yeah. So what are some of your...
To be honest, Golden, can I just say that we'll do the other, can we do the other half of this tomorrow? Because I think it's a really good thing to have a whole conversation on. So I think we're halfway through. Are we halfway through now?
The whole thing? You want to listen to their
No,
whole conversation?
I'm saying if we continue it on our next politics talk, the other half of this.
Oh, add the other half on the next video. Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
We can do that.
Yeah, because I think it's important to discuss the whole of the stuff that he goes on to talk about relationships and stuff, and I think it's important. There's some really great stuff that comes out of the conversation. I mean, in finality, what I would say about this first half, there's a very key point he talks about economics. Yeah, about the economics and how hard it is. Because we don't have the economics to go in and get the bank loans. But what he's actually trying to say is how strong community, how people, other communities, other cultures are successful is because they're able to support each other economically, even with whatever little they have. They share resources and they build networks. And, unity does translate into power if you're using the resources that you have. So, he also says, he also starts talking a little bit about holding leaders accountable, questioning the systems, and just not following what people say. And I think one of the important things which was the surprise in Texas, was that there we had a strong Black woman, a politically savvy Black woman And in the end, people just said, oh, let me vote in the YT man,
Right.
which she's a great politician. She fights for her people, but black people didn't come out, I'm sure, and support her in the numbers that she needed, because this man had a publicity moment, which was the thing with Stephen Colbert where they wouldn't show his interview.
Mm-hmm.
That changed the basis of that race, because
Yeah.
Trump was saying he didn't want him on TV. People might have said it was a publicity stunt, I don't know, but there you have it. But the last person they wanted in Texas was Jasmine Crockett, because she has been a pain and a thorn in their side
Right.
since
And
forever. So
you gotta
it
think
really
about,
was interesting in that. And, the only thing I can say about this is that we really, really need to look at what all the stuff he's talking about. I don't always agree with all that Dr. Umar says, but as the saying goes, a broken clock is right twice a day. He's more than right. He's right more than twice a day in a lot of stuff he says. And we have to do this self-examination in our community about what we're doing with the resources we have. Are we unifying? Are we looking at where we're being steered with these narratives? Are we being this performing, shucking and jiving people for entertainment? Where are we going and where do we want to be? Do we highlight to people that academia is great, or do we say that you got to be loud on social media, fighting on some TV program for other people's entertainment, or it's just as good to be clever and smart? It's that old adage, the nerds. We need more black nerds, and that is what I think is important. But we'll continue with this tomorrow, and we'll kind of do a recap of the first half, if that's okay with you. And I don't know what you think.
no, I think that's great. We can definitely do and put the rest of that conversation
Hello?
in the part. Oh, hold on. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Or I can hear you, but I guess you can't hear me. But yeah, we'll definitely put that, the rest of that into our live. We can do tomorrow, and so we can hear the second part of it. I just wanted to get through all of the content that we had on this live without, holding everybody up for too long. And I know that if we play all of that, child will be here forever. So we already have hit the 2 hour mark, but our next conversation that we'll be moving into is going to be the one I told y'all about with when it comes to Iyanla Vanzant. And she is having a really heartfelt conversation. And I think, really speaking on some things that most people probably can resonate with. Okay. So basically, what she's talking about is the disease of hopelessness. And when it comes to hopelessness around, black men, right? In our black communities. And we know that our black Oh, sorry. We know that our black men go through a lot. We know that they've probably been through a lot from the time they were young boys up to, the ages that they may be at now. And they move and they operate a certain way. And so, she's talking about a little bit around basically why that can be and why that is a thing, but also why we see a lot of the black men rage out and crash out a lot of the times in the ways they do. And there will be some talks around this conversation when it comes to black men losing all types of control and starting to get physical. So the conversation does kind of segue into, like, what could be DV or domestic violence, and some of the reasons as to why she thinks that is, so prevalent in this current time, with black men being so, angry and so, rageous or rageful or whatever, not rageous, rageful. And sometimes that can, segue into them being with ones that they love and they care about and the ones that are closest to them, and exuding, their frustrations and energy, not always just verbally, but maybe sometimes in a physical way towards those people due to the frustrations that they have and they hold from how they have, basically have had to live and be treated for a long period of time, and it hasn't changed and it hasn't stopped. And I think that they're sick and fed up. And so it was a good conversation around that. So that's what we're going to get into next, y'all. Hey, Asher, what's going on, Asher? Thank you so much for coming in and showing love and support. As always, you do. So thank you for that. But yeah, we'll be getting into that in just a moment. Should we take a song break or should we just speed right through it and just get right into the content? What do you think, Imani?
Let's just right through it and get through the content because these are only short videos. Did you hear anything of my lovely commentary? Because I had a great spiel.
Yeah, no, you didn't go out during your commentary. It was after you were finished, it went out, but we heard everything you said.
Okay. Okay.
You know,
Yeah, let's just go straight through it. I think because all the videos we've got are quite short, so we can just speed through it and just a couple of songs at the end. What do you think?
I think so too. Yeah, because the rest of
Okay.
these videos are from here out. These are just short little clips and stuff. But
Okay.
all right, let's go ahead and
Oh,
get
by
into
the
it.
way, hey Asha. Great
Hey,
to
Ash.
see you.
I'll meet you in the chat or whatnot. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into this one. And this is Iyanla Vanzant, and I hope I'm saying her name properly. That's how I pronounce it, Alana. And she's sitting down and having a conversation with Roland Martin. And I thought it was a really excellent conversation to really hear and for all of us to hear and see what we can take from it. So let's go ahead and get into that, and we'll be right back.
I think one of the things that, and I'm going to talk about Black women in just a moment, but I think one of the diseases that's spreading among Black men that we really have to address is hopelessness. Because I talk to a lot of brothers and they say it's like, no matter how hard I try, I'm not getting ahead. No matter what I do, it's never enough, it's never right. And they're talking about both in the world and at home. At home. I'm not appreciated, and everybody's not college bound. And there's no, there used to be dignity in being a garbage man, a sanitation worker. Don't look and nobody will know it's yours. Being a sanitation worker or being a mailman.
Okay, can somebody tell me what this music is playing?
That is my phone.
That's your phone? I'm like, what is...
It's in my purse. This is live TV, y'all. Like... I'm sorry. Get it out my purse and tell you. I thought I had turned it off. And see how we were getting ready to act like it wasn't going on?
Like I was trying, is that going to end? Is something happening? Well, all right, go ahead.
That's Uncle Bubba peeing in the plant. We acting like it's not going on.
I'm like, is that thing going to shut down?
But hopelessness. So many brothers are hopeless. And when that happens, they don't have anything to lose. So they'll just go there, go off the deep end. And the way that we got to support them in addressing, acknowledging, feeling the hopelessness is to begin to give them tools and opportunities and a safe place for them to be vulnerable, to be wounded. Where is a safe place for the average Black man to be wounded, broken, vulnerable? Where is that? Women, because we hunt and gather, we come together and we're gonna get you straight. He left you, let's all beat him. You know?
Right.
Or let's go shopping, we have a different culture, a different community among us. But what has also happened for us is Black women have been taught to love deeply, to love loyally, and to love sacrificially. We will sacrifice ourselves for the love of our partner, our family, our children. And in doing so, very often, we sacrifice what we know, what we feel, what we sense, and we won't speak to the phone ringing in the middle of the live TV show.
When you talked about how women gather, and this was one of the first things we talked about. We had 2 male psychologists on, and we challenged men. We said that what can't happen, what you can't have is a group of guys who get together, 5, 6, 7, 8, and they don't talk.
Yeah. Or they
don't
talk about
share.
ball.
It's always playing. And I've told this story many times. That was it was a church men's retreat, and I had a work retreat that Friday, and the men's retreat was Friday, Saturday. It ended Sunday morning, and so I go on Saturday, and when I arrived around 4:00, where's everybody at? Oh, games, fishing, doing whatever. Okay, all right. Okay. So then it was time to eat. Then there was a service that was around 7:00. Okay. About an hour into this service, I see them bringing out trays of food and stuff behind me. I go, yo, what the? Oh, yeah, so we probably gonna be done with this in about 30 minutes. And so then we got Domino's cards and television. I said, I'm sorry. Y'all had a whole day of games and outdoor activities. And they came back, and we're gonna spend 90 minutes on stuff, and then it's back to games. I said, nah, this ain't gonna work. And so I stood up and I said, I don't know. I said to the organizers, I don't mean no disrespect, but I know cats in right now who marriages are about to be over. I know some of the stuff. I said, and y'all literally are not going to deal with this. I said, you've had women who have paid for you to come here. You've had mothers and wives and aunts. And I said, and you going to come here to play games and go back the same way. I said, and I never even took it to my room. I went back home.
Mm-hmm. And so, again, for usins, hear me, Roland, for usins. And I love the way you love us. I've known you how many years, and I know you as a journalist. I know you as a editorial speaker, and I know you love us. I love the way you love us. I don't agree with you all the time. And how many times I tell you, Roland, behave yourself? But I love you have the space, and I want to give you the space without making you wrong, without beating you. Nobody, don't come to me and talk to me about Roland Martin. You can't talk to me about Roland Martin, Tavis Smiley. You can talk to me about Bernard Shaw, Ed Bradley. You understand? No. Cornel West, because I know how you love us. Now, if we got an issue, I'm coming to you. I'm not getting online. Roland, that's not who we are. That's not my grandmother. If you ain't got nothing nice to say, don't say it at all. Where did we get this thing of getting online and tearing each other down? What is that? So, another spiritual component of this is our very own ancestors in our DNA are rebelling against us because we are out of order. We are misbehaving. We got bad spiritual hygiene. Bad. And so our own inner dysfunction is becoming more and more pronounced because we're being called to heal. Called to heal. And some of it means go back to basics. Shut up. Stay your behind off. When I saw some of the things that people were saying online, that's when I had to go do my research. So here's the first question for women, all you women out there watching. What am I thinking about my current relationship with the men in my life? See, men need to feel, women need to get their thoughts and their feelings in alignment. What am I thinking about the current relationships with the men in my life, whether that's son, father, husband, lover, brother? Because if you Do it anywhere, you do it everywhere. If you think your father's an asshole, you think the same thing about your son, your brother, and your lover. We don't understand how the mind works, but that's how it works. So what else gonna do?
I brought up earlier, pain.
Yeah.
And a lot of sisters have talked about the pain, what they endure, what they go through. And I absolutely do believe that a lot of men, a lot of brothers, don't give that any thought whatsoever. Don't give it any thought. That was I'm gonna send y'all the link. I want y'all to pull it. Trevor Noah was on the podcast talking with this sister.
Yeah.
And the sister said, okay, so we're taught to carry mace. We're taught to not dress provocatively. We're taught. So she went through this whole line of things.
Yeah.
And she said, so we've been taught all these things to do. But she said, but when they going to deal with the folk who
do it to
it's causing us that we have to do all this stuff.
Right.
So what she was saying is, these are all these things. I got to be careful how God speaks to me, because we've seen the cases where, a woman rejects a guy giving the phone number and he slaps her, shoots her, kills her, or whatever. And men have to recognize that exists, and not just from the area of, if that happened to my sister, I'm gonna hurt somebody.
Right.
If it happened to my daughter, I'm gonna hurt somebody. Well, guess what? That other woman is somebody else's daughter.
Right.
It's somebody else's sister. So part of this is also, I do fundamentally believe, men having to sit down to understand what that sister also is going through. If both folk are going through pain and difficulty, I better understand. I just can't expect her to understand what mine is. I better have an understanding of what hers is too.
Well, when we go into relationship with somebody, we're not just going into who they are today. We're going into relationship with everything they've been through.
Right, there you go.
Everything they've been through, every experience, everything. And a man can't give you what he can't give himself. If he can't give him space to be his own self, space to be sad, to be vulnerable, to be whatever it is, how's he going to offer that to you? This is why it's important that we each do our individual work.
Okay, so as I am going to be resetting my mic here and my speaker, y'all, because y'all had to plug it in.
Bluetooth mode.
Y'all will hear some of that in the background. But anyway, I love Iyanla. I really do, the way she breaks things down. And so as far as what we have heard thus far,
Bluetooth connected.
as far as what we have heard thus far, between this conversation with Iyanla and Roland, I think it's an excellent conversation and a necessary conversation to have, because I have understood and I have heard and I have seen that, there is, and I like what Roland said, there was at this male's retreat, and, all they want to do is play games and have fun and then go back home to the same problems. And he's like, well, if we're here to all talk together as men and talk about, what we're going through in our lives, our relationships, things like that, blow off a little steam, why are we not doing that? Why are we just playing games and going back home and then just going back to the same things that we came from? We've left here with nothing. And it's supposed to be like a powerful spiritual, recharge retreat or whatever. And then we hear Iyanla talking. And child, when I hear her talk, I'm sorry, she really just hits the nail on the head every time for me. But Imani, what do you think about some of the things that they both were conversing about and saying within what we've heard from not just the first clip that I played, but the first portion of the second clip that I played? Because these are just clips. The entire interview is long, so I didn't want to play all of that, but I wanted to play some of the, clips just so we can get to the meat and potatoes.
I think it's a very good discussion. I like the way she begins by talking about how black men feel, which is something I hear daily
Right.
in my world. No, I'm only joking.
No,
But
girl, I hear it in my world too, child. They're not happy.
their daily struggle at work. But anyway, all jokes aside,
Yeah.
you know, they're valid issues that they have about working hard and not getting anywhere, feeling unappreciated at home. I've heard that one before.
Right.
Um, feeling like no matter what they do, it's never enough. And it's a valid feeling, which does turn into frustration and sometimes, you know, some very self-destructive behavior which results in DV. um but what they're talking about is that finding, you know, safe spaces where black men can be vulnerable, to express their feelings without judgment. I mean, you know, we all say this thing, men cry too, but do many of them feel that they can, you know?
That part.
And where is that space that they can be themselves? And then, you know, when we talk about relationships, we're talking, you know, when they talk about black women, they talk about, you know, how we do love deeply, how we do well, majority of us stay loyal, and
Yeah.
we do make a lot of I'm not saying that men don't sacrifice for their family and their partners, they do. But the focus has always been on black women doing all these things.
Right.
And but also at the same time, I think that black women in their relationships can suppress a lot of their emotional needs and their feelings
Of
and
course.
their instincts and what they want out of a relationship.
Right.
Um, and you know, I think it's really talking about better communication between the genders. And I don't think that's only happening amongst, I think it's a gender problem, but I think it's a
Right.
big gender problem in our culture because
Right.
we have been taught to stay quiet, to put up with stuff. And I'm talking about men and women. And I think that if you think about what we talked about earlier about the dynamics or the, as Dr. Umar put it, the post-traumatic slavery disorder, you know, that kind of thing that we're used to being, you know, we've got a culture where we're used to being subservient and accepting in both the genders. So we're accepting of what we don't like, and that has translated into our personal relationships, which is not a good thing because then we teach our children the same dynamics,
Yeah.
and and so it goes on. But yeah, I think it is a really good conversation, and I think we need to have more of them.
I believe so as well. In healthy environments between individuals that really see it for what it really is, like this, right? And I like to hear, you know, I can't say I agree with anybody 100% of the time, but I do like to hear a lot of talking points and think points that come from Roland Martin. And I absolutely like to hear a lot of talking points and thinking parts that come from Alana. And Alana been out here, child, she had a whole show fixing people's lives. You know what I mean? But we do have to have these real conversations because I do think a lot of the current things that we keep repeating over and over and over again really do, you know, stem from the fact that we're not getting it. There's something that's not sticking. We're not understanding about one another. And it takes for individuals like this to come and bring these type of conversations for the forefront and for us to sit down and listen to them and fully, you know, like really digest what it is that they're saying. And I think that many of us probably could speak to or attest to the fact that we've been in relationships where there is this level of disconnect, but it's like you said, it's not the women not understanding, you know, the frustration and the struggle of the man. Whether right now we're talking about black, but no matter what race, right? No matter what culture that they have had, but we know that within ours, that there are even more things that they have to go through and that make things harder for them to step up and be, the man that they desire to be. And it's not always just them not making the proper decisions and putting forth, the work and the effort to do so. Like we said, there are a lot of systemic things that come into play that actually make it difficult and almost, entirely prevent them from being able to be, I guess, the men they want to be or do the things that they want to do in a lot of circumstances. And what some individuals feel is like, oh, they see a NFL player or an NBA player or a rapper or a singer or a UFC fighter, and they, see, even if they're black, we don't see many of them, but there's a lot more than there used to be. You see them in these positions, and maybe if we don't even just talk about entertainment, they could be, CEOs, or they could be, owners of 500, what is it, Fortune 500 companies, and all of those things, right? So we do see that there are possibilities that some can make it, but typically not as many that deserve to make it or could make it do make it, because there's only a certain amount they let through the door. So the rest that may not get let through the door or given those said chances, or are not given second chances and things of that nature, that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother day. Then now they're kind of stuck in this, bracket with this ceiling that they feel as though is always over their head, to where they can't be more than what it is they desire to be. They can't do more than what it is they desire to do. And it makes them internally frustrated with their own existence and life. And one of the things that you realize when you are a woman and you are in these type of relationships, majorly we can talk about romantic relationships, so boyfriend, husband, whatever, sometimes even it comes from the sons, is that they sometimes try to, take out their frustrations on you, because of how the world and society is not giving them a fair chance, and they are not feeling as though they are where they want or need to be as a man, right? And so this is one of the things that a lot of women complain about and have to undergo, is, not just doing all the womanly tasks and things like that within the relationship, but also a lot of times becoming the punching bag for men's frustrations, that a lot of time that woman has nothing to do with, and women get tired of that, right? So there's women
But
who's walking out.
you know what?
That's
Sorry to
bad.
cut you. Sorry
It's
to
okay.
cut you, Golden. But you
Cut
see, I
in any
think
time. That's the conversation dynamic. You cut in any time. That's how
no,
we
but
go.
the key thing that I think that people do not understand, a lot of women have collective emotional a collective emotional group. So sisters tend to gather together, and if one person is going through a traumatic time, all the sisters are going through the traumatic time with her, and we analyze it and we talk about it. If you are around a lot of your friends, if you're isolated, it's slightly different. But traditionally, in a lot of spaces, whether it be at work or whether it be among your friendship group, whether it be among your family group, women tend to be quite open about expressing what is going on, be it with their children, their husband, their side man, whoever it is. Yeah. So we have this, we process everything as a collective. Men don't really do a lot. Men that find it difficult to share in that way. Therefore, it
Right.
becomes pent up. And when they want to release it, and I'm not making excuses for DV, so don't anybody think it's that. It's
Right.
processing their emotions, because they don't have that whole kind of group of sisters will come and hug you and talk about how terrible the man is and what he did and how little he earns, and if you meet someone and his car. We do everything collectively. Men don't tend to do that. They tend to suppress it. And I think that is what one of the other things we were talking about earlier, about expressing emotions, about letting stuff out, about not internalizing the stuff that we have, because I
You
think it's
know,
the way we express emotions.
you know what? That's so true. And then I'll tell you the reason why I think that, that is very true what you're saying, is because, and we heard, on multiple videos that we've already played with men, y'all, men saying these things. One thing that it really boils down to when it comes to other men is pride and ego, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
one thing that a woman can say is like, she'll go to her girlfriend, she'll be like, oh, let's just use John, child. This is just a name. Oh, John, he got so mad at me, last night because, child, I was baking the chicken and then I was upstairs trying to give the baby a bath and the chicken was in the oven too long and I done burnt the daggone chicken and the whole dinner was destroyed. We'll say to our girlfriends the truth of what, what I'm saying, might be most embarrassing, mistakes that we made, things that, what I'm saying, we can hold ourselves accountable for. It's very hard for a man to go to anybody for that matter, even his own homeboys, and be like, yo, uh, let's just say, Kiki is mad at me, or, me and Kiki is going at it right now because, child, I was working at the plant and, something happened and I got fired and now, I ain't got no job. And she's stressed and she don't know how we gonna make it. And, we fighting and we fussing because I lost my job. It's easier for us to tell our girlfriends and stuff like and be honest about what maybe we did and navigate through that boop boop boop. But it's not as easy sometimes for men to do those type of things even amongst themselves and their own homeboys, right? And be honest about those things.
Yeah,
So
it's much
I
easier for
think
us to
that,
be vulnerable.
yeah. So I think, like you were saying, like that ties into why they allow a lot of things to pin up because they feel like they don't really, or they don't want to express those things. I wouldn't say that they don't have the outlets to do it because you got homeboys, you got barbershops, you know what I'm saying? There's other men around, some older than you know what I'm saying? Some even being your family members that you can open up to and be vulnerable with when it comes to certain things.
Well,
But
it's
I think
different
the
though.
pride and the
It's different
ego
though.
holds
It's
them
the
back.
cultural teachings though, I think, Golden, because men are taught to be strong and to be stoic in adversity. It's what we've taught our men to be. This is the reason why men rarely cry in front of, anybody. It's
Right,
about teaching people it's okay to express your feelings. And that is a lot of that is cultural in our community. A lot of it is cultural, and those are the things that we. This is where Dr. Umar talks about prevention rather than correction, teaching our children that it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay not to win all the time. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay, whether they're boys or girls.
right.
And I'm not saying that that we have to, you know, change change. We have to allow people to express, and I think there's the it's about emotional health and regulation,
Yeah,
and
and
I
I think
think it's
what it
yeah.
boils down to is we have to allow human beings to be human beings. When God
Hmm.
created women and when God created men, and that's again respectfully, that's like my personal spiritual belief and how I prefer. And anybody else who has anything different, like we always say, that's respectful here. Is no problem with that if if it's different for you. But when I speak, you'll hear me say God a lot. But I think when God or the creator, whatever, um, created men and women, I think that there are a lot of differences that we were created with, but I think there's a lot of similarities. And when it comes to emotions and feelings, and us being able to express those emotions and feelings, I think that's the same whether you're male or female. But I think, like you said, societally, right? Society wise, that is who has or the infrastructure that has taught women and men that when it comes to emotional expression, that their emotional expressions have to be different. And so I don't think that's a creator thing. I don't think that's how we were, because if a man is not supposed to be able to cry, how is a man able to cry and shed tears?
Mm.
You would
I
not
think
be
it's a
created
nurture
to do
thing.
that
It's a
if it
nurture
wasn't
thing.
meant to do that. That's a societal thing and a mental thing. So when we get back to the understanding that, yeah, there are some things that will differ between us when it comes to female and male, that we were just created in that way to differ, we also still have to understand that at the core, there are a lot of things that's very similar between us that we were created to do as well, and cry, feel emotions, sadness, vulnerability. All of those things are very similar between the two of us, and we should have the opportunity to be able to express that freely without any type of backlash or um what they try to do, humiliation or anything like that. But again, that's a societal thing. It's like when a boy fall down off the bike. Uh, you tell them, all right, you good, get back up there and get back on and keep it pushing. If the girl fall off the bike, they're running over to her. Do you need the alcohol? Do you need the peroxide? You know what I'm saying? You're kissing the boo boo, and you know what I'm saying? Like you're really catering to that. But they both fell off of that bike the same way. They both have the same type of hurt or scraped up knee the same way. They both have the same type of humiliation the same way. But why is it different when it comes to a boy and a girl? But that's a societal thing,
Yeah, and
right?
here we are in 2026 and nothing's really changed.
Exactly. Like when the man, he done took a L or something like that, and he's in his feelings and emotions, then society and even sometimes the partners or whatnot that might be with them, like we've been taught to like, oh, he should not be crying. He should not be feeling hurt. He should not just you're a man. Get up, dust it off, and keep it pushing. And I don't think that's the right way for us to be treating men. And we didn't know that from the beginning, but we're starting to see that now because what that is doing is breaking them. And the more that they're broken, the more broken experiences we will have with them. Hey, Mama. Mama wanted to say a few things. Here she go.
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, but you gotta turn the TV off because we can hear the background noise.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the chat, hi Amani, hi Golden, hi everybody. Bless and love you all. I just wanted to add a little point in there. When you guys were talking about the men who seem to appear to be afraid to show emotion or to cry. And I was thinking back, a lot of that comes from mostly the parental raising of the father, because you can hear the father say, look, boy, strengthen up, strengthen up. You a boy, you a man. You ain't supposed to cry. You ain't supposed to do this. You ain't supposed to do that. And a lot of them have been raised and that's what they were taught. And so when they do cry, they would go ahead and compare that to a weakness or being more well, I guess I can say this, being more femalish. You remember the song, I'm gonna go outside in the rain. They came up with an idea of, if you walk out in the rain, I'm a man, I can go ahead and cry, but you don't know if I'm crying because you don't know if it's raindrops or not. So I think that's a very important point that I always said. A man has to be able to understand that our God had to cry. And if our God had to cry, then they are allowed to cry and show their emotions as well. And they need not, pay attention to the myths and the horrible, evil things people say. Oh, well, you acting like a woman, all that kind of mess. Nah, if you're a true man and you need to cry, then you're going to cry. And to be honest with you, somewhere in this life, of the life that we live, a man is going to cry. He's going to show his emotions. He has to. And, I just want to say that to every man out there. We know you got a heart. We know that you feel, and we know you get hurt, and we know how you feel. And yes, if you have to cry, then cry. If you got to cry with your loved one or cry with your wife or cry with your girlfriend, or sometimes you might just be in the bathroom, you got to cry to yourself. But please, men, do not feel as though because you cry, that makes you any weaker of a species than what you are. And that's all I wanted to share.
Oh, thanks, Mama. The only thing I'd add to that is very, very true. The only thing I say, men, if it's an ugly cry, please, please, please don't
Oh,
show it to me.
Got to have, hey, look at here. We got to have some laughter in there, right? We got to have some. Right.
Please, 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 no blubber, no. Oh, yeah, I'm
Yeah,
only
yeah,
joking.
yeah. But they need to know that they're human too. And God
Miss
cried. So
Josie,
we know
Josie,
God cried. We all can cry. Huh?
No,
right?
it's true. It's very true.
It
Right.
is.
So anyway, I'm not going to hold you guys. You guys are doing wonderful with this live. I'm
Just
going
sitting
backstage
there.
and I'm going to finish listening.
Thank you, Mama.
Okay. All right. We'll
I
let
love
you
you
sit.
all. Love you all. Okay.
Love you
All
too
right.
much.
We love
Just
you
say
too.
whatever you want to say. Just pop in there. I'll leave you in the back there, right here.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
All right.
She said, "Not an ugly cry, child. I'm weak." But no, we joking. We joking. But yeah. So and this is the thing too. It's like I feel like some men, because it's like they have to exude that energy, right? Because if you have an energy inside of you, whether it's you're angry, you're sad, you know what I mean, you're bewildered, whatever it is, you got to get that up off of you in some type of way. And with the men, it's like you have some, they might go boxing, they might go out and they might I don't know, shoot, pow off, pows and stuff. Whatever they feel like helps get that energy out them. There's some that can do that, but there's some that don't do that. And so they stay in very close proximity to the ones that they love, which is typically their children, their women, stuff like that, maybe even their family and their parents. And I feel like if they have to do that energy, like you go into sometimes boys' rooms when they're young and stuff like that. And you sometimes see that there's some boys like they have so much energy and anger pent up inside of them. You'll see like holes in their walls because they get so angry they punch the wall. You know what I'm saying? Like they have to get that up off of them. And so a lot of times I feel like what a lot of women sometimes undergo under certain men, and I'm not saying it's all, is like when they get to that volcanic point, right, where they're so frustrated and so angry and they really want to cry, but they've been told they can't cry. They really want to show their emotion, but they don't want to show their emotion, but they're frustrated and they're fed up. Sometimes that can cause them to like now just start like bickering and arguing with you, or maybe even taking it a step further. And we won't speak on that. But I believe that there's probably a lot of people out there that can, bear witness to like those type of exchanges happening. And a lot of that comes from, to me, in my personal opinion, is that like there's too much pent up like rage, anger, frustration, and emotion, and they use the closest thing that they have as something that they can take that out on, and that may be a little bit how it starts, and then it goes further and further and further. But you want to listen to more of this conversation, Imani? Do you have anything more to say, or you want me to play the video?
No, I don't have anything more to say. How much more we got of this video?
Let me see. This one's not too long. I think it's about, let me see, hold on. How many more minutes is on here? 4 minutes more.
Yeah. Let's just listen to the end, and then we'll
Okay. Move on. And then we got to talk about Nia Long, because Nia Long is going through, some things over with Lionsgate that Monique tried to warn us about last time we seen her speaking up and out, especially on Club Shay Shay's platform with Shannon Sharp. And then we'll also talk about DL Hughley and how he has, some gripes with Killer Mike. So those are the last two things we'll get into after we finish up with Roland Martin and Alanya. So let's go back and get into this and meet y'all in the chat.
Say this, I was physically, sexually abused as a child. I was neglected. I wasn't raised. I just kind of grew up in the environment. I got my first job when I was 13, and my father used to come on my payday to pick me up from work and take my money and give me just enough money to get back to work. When I told my brother, I had an older brother, when I told my brother that my husband was beating me and I needed, know what he said? What you want me to do about it? When I told my father that, I said, please come talk to him. Come talk to him. You know what my father said? You made your bed hard, you lie in it.
Wow.
So I learned real clear, okay, girlie, you need to get this together. At some point.
And that's not the reaction that a woman wants from the men in their lives, a brother and a daddy.
No.
That is not the reaction.
And see, one of the reasons that men, particularly in repetitive domestic violence, one of the reasons they do that is because they know she doesn't have anybody that he got to answer to.
There you go.
If he knew he had to answer to her brother or her daddy or her uncle, he would think twice. And if he's not answering it to them, either they're not around or she's not telling him. But my father told me, he said, you made your bed hard, you need to lie in it. So that facility. And it sounds bizarre, but it was probably one of the best things that could have happened to me, because it forced me to ask the question, why are you here? How long are you going to do this? But the wound, remaining loyal to people who treat me badly. You see, all of this stuff is linked up together, and nobody could tell me, Roland. I had to get that from within myself. Whether you get it within yourself through therapy or get it within yourself through prayer, meditation, or pastoral counseling, but it's got to come up, and you got to see it in its ugliness, and you got to own it, and then choose what you're going to do about it.
So how do we? And when I say we, I'm meaning friend, fraternity brother, sorority sister, church member, I don't care what it is. If the conversation is being had and that sister is revealing that I am dealing with verbal abuse, I'm dealing with physical abuse, how do we tell them to leave?
Well,
because a lot of people don't even same thing. Like, it's real. I've seen all these posts on social media. She gotta go.
Can't.
And it's easy to type that in a tweet. Or on Threads. It's a completely different conversation when it's in real life.
And this is what I learned, and I'm sure many women who left have learned it. You will not learn until it hurts bad enough. It didn't hurt bad enough when he broke my jaw and I was 6 months pregnant. That didn't hurt bad enough. It didn't hurt bad enough when he hit me with the bed slat and broke my ribs. That didn't hurt bad enough. What hurt me bad enough was when literally the Holy Spirit woke me up at 2 o'clock in the morning and said, if you don't leave here, he's going to kill you. And I said, my kids cannot grow up without a mother. It was not one of the beatings, not one of the slappings, not one of any of that. You're not going to leave until it hurts bad.
I just need to take a pause right there for anyone for that commentary. One second. Imani, do you have anything you want to say real quick? Because I have something I want to say, but I'm just trying to gather myself real quick.
I think, this is actually a longer discussion on DV. It's pretty sad. People can only do this, actually make changes when they're ready to make changes, and the realization. There is one part I do agree with Iyanla about, which is when a man in that type, when a woman's in that type of situation and she has a strong male support, like a father, like brothers, and it's they're visibly supportive. Guys like that tend to be more reticent if they know that there's that close proximity to family, i.e., but what happens in a lot of these situations, just like in the first video we talked about the Breakfast Club, there's a lot of people tend to be afraid of what the family reaction is going to be and what they will do to that person. And they're more afraid of what will happen to their family members if they tell them. So there is this kind of cycle of people keeping secrets because they don't want their family members to get into trouble if they find out. But then there are some people that, when they come into quite a strong family support system, they are a bit more wary of inflicting pain on the female family members. It's not always. It just really depends on that person's background. And this is the reason why we have to get to know people. We really do have to get to know people before we break bread with them and make house with them, and know what their history is, know what their background is. Because a lot of people are meeting people online these days, and they're not really getting to know them or their family, and they just take what they're told as gospel. If they say, you know, my family's passed away, when that time that person may have a history of this. So it's doing the research, it's looking up. There's a lot of these things on registers now, looking up that person and doing your checks, not doing your checks to dox them on YouTube, because to me, that's what those things are used for. When you're using all these laws, I don't know what the DV one is here, but in the UK, I know that if you want to check out somebody who you take in as a partner, there are registers that you can check. You can call the police and ask them if that person has a history or has been arrested for DV. These are things that people should do, even when it comes to things like SA, because there are many people just taking strangers into their houses and not knowing who they are. And you can't always know it, but if the resources are there to check on people, they should be. You know, it's not there to just have a great big live and talk about people's history. You know, those resources are there for people's protection, not people's entertainment. And that's where I sit on that. And that's really, you know, DV is a long conversation. At some point we will do some stuff on this, but over to you, Golden. But
Okay.
if you feel it's too much,
No,
we
no,
can
I'm
move
good.
on.
I'm good now. I was just, when hearing her saying that, it was just, it just made me emotional for a moment, but I'm back and I do have some things I want to speak on that, because what she's saying is no further from the truth, right? And so I feel like when it comes to, and yeah, we know DV can go both ways, but if we're going to speak about DV as women, because we're two women here, and on the, you know, the panel right now, and you know, I don't know if my mom going to chime in later. She may could add some things to it, but you know, when we're speaking about that, one of the things that she's saying that is really relevant and true, that a lot of women have to take into, you know, thinking back on, and reflecting back on when it comes to being in a situation like that, is how much are you willing to take and how far are you willing to go. And that's not to, you know, dismantle or belittle, you know, the nasty work that these men can be when it comes to, you know, being in a situation like that. But when we speak over here, you know, we also speak on truth and we just keep it real, right? And so we have to what? Walk into wherever it is, whether it's the bathroom or bedrooms, wherever it is, and look into that mirror and ask ourselves, you know, how did this thing get this far, and how and why did you allow yourself to be treated like this for so long? And a lot of it is like, you know, let's be very clear when it comes to that. You know, I think a lot of it really results to the fact that, you know, yes, we are women and we're feminine and we're beautiful and we're soft and, you know, we're all of those things, we're nurturing, but we also are equally strong, right? Like we are the ones who bring life into the world. So you got to be pretty strong to do that. And so what I think what it comes and it boils down to when it comes to women is like we know our inner strengths and we know the strengths that we have. We just use them sometimes for things that we don't need to use them for. And when it comes to situations like this, sometimes I think, you know, and I'm not saying that I'm placing the blame on the woman. I'm just saying there has to be a accountability on all sides. Um, and for anyone who has been in it, and I know that a lot of women don't just take it laying down. It's not like they just, you know, there's some that may get, you know, they get the best of them, and there's some that fight tooth and nail to the very end when it comes to having to fight. But that it should never get to that point, and we know that. But when it comes to those situations, what Alanya was saying is, it wasn't that. You know what I'm saying? She's saying that wasn't enough for me to leave. It wasn't that wasn't enough for me to leave. It wasn't that, because when you're a strong woman, you can take it, or you feel like you can take it, and you do take it, and you keep taking it, and you keep sticking around, You keep staying around because you can handle it and you can combat it and you can fight it back. And it's not to say that it's your fault because you're strong enough to take it. It never should be done, period. Let's be clear about that. But your strength sometimes that you have and your patience level and maybe your ego or maybe your predicament, that you may be in life, like, or that you might be a stay-at-home house mother with the children, and that you're with this guy and he's paying all of the bills and everything's in his name, but he wants to do these things to you. You're thinking now, like, well, if I'm strong enough to take it, I'm gonna take it, because if I go against it, then where are we gonna live? Now I'm gonna have all these issues. I'm gonna have to find a place for me and my babies to go, and he's gonna kick us out on the street. We don't know why people do what they do, and I can't speak on all of that or any of that on these lives because that's only personal, right? But Alanya, what I love about this conversation is, like I said for the previous live, she's being very vulnerable and she's being very open and honest about her personal experience, right? As a woman that went through that. And that's what she said, like, yo, it didn't take that for me to leave. It didn't take that for me to leave. It was like, she had, and what most people have to do is get to a point where enough is enough for you to take, for you to deal with, for you to swallow, for you to fight with every day. Once you get fed up and you no longer want to do that anymore, and you make a rational decision like, yo, I'm not living like this no more. I'm not dealing with this stuff no more. I am out. I want better for myself. That is a personal decision. It's not to take away from the nasty work that person is doing, because they should not be doing that. And it is nasty work. And it's terrible that these things happen. But within those type of circumstances, yeah, a lot of it, or I would say not a lot of it, I would say maybe half of it boils down to, you got to get to a point where you realize that you're more than that. You don't let nobody treat you like that. You don't let nobody do you like that. You don't let nobody talk to you like that. You don't let nobody put their hands on you like that. You don't let nobody make you live and feel like that, because you're more than that. So, but sometimes it takes us to come to a point where we realize our worth. And once we realize our worth, that's the only time we can move and make different decisions and operate differently and get out of bad predicaments and things that we're in when it comes to that type of stuff. You know what I'm saying? So I don't want to go too far into that. I'm going to let Alanya keep talking. Again, it's about like 2 minutes more, and then we're moving on to Nia Long. All right, here we go. This is a very triggering topic, y'all. I'm sorry it's triggering, but I just thought it was impertinent to talk about on this live or whatnot, because you don't know what people are experiencing, what they're dealing with in the dark. You don't know that. You don't know what people are going through. You don't know what they're suffering through, trying to survive through. And I won't get too far into it, but I don't think it should ever be content on anybody else's channel. But anyway, let's keep going.
Sorry, can I just say something? It should only be content if it's a teaching subject. That's where I feel it should be content. If you're giving people tools to deal with, or you want to discuss it, or it's a teaching moment, that's the only time it should be content. It shouldn't be content just for the sake of talking about someone else's issues. But anyway, let's keep it moving, because
no, that was excellent for you to say, because that's the whole thing. It's not the whole point of why I'm playing this video, but everything that I do with reason. Because there is a way for us to get our points across and really, explain what exactly the severity of the things that we're talking about and we're trying to stand up for, up against, and why we do so. And so this is what I'm talking about. We're listening to Iyanla Vanzant, who a lot of people know has had a show, has been successfully someone who helps people put the pieces back together, build their lives back up, and fix problems in their life, while equally being open and honest and vulnerable about the things and the experiences that she's had in her life. And so I will listen to someone like that. I will hear what they have to say. And when I see some of the things, that's being done for play and, laughs and giggles that are so serious, right? So detrimental. It's just like this stuff is not for school yard playground games. Like these are things that people have seriously experienced, have gone through, and are very detrimental. And maybe if people hear it from someone else, you know what I'm saying, outside of this sector or outside of, this platform, maybe we can understand why we say like, yo, this stuff is actually really serious. It's nothing to be out here, playing with and throwing in somebody's face because you don't like that person, exposing and putting out on platforms because you don't like that person. Like people really deal with this stuff on a real basis, and it's serious. And I never understood why people throw that around and play and hee and ha ha like that stuff is funny, because it's not funny at all. At all. But anyway, moving on. I'm not going to get too serious today, y'all. I'm in my calm mood. Let me calm back down. And we're going to listen to the rest of this and move on to the next video.
Enough. What you have to let her know, or him, because Roland, there are brothers that are being abused by women in their homes. You have to let them know, first of all, you are a safe place for them to come to.
Yeah, that was.
Sometimes they just need a place to come. The other thing you have to let them know, you can't just come here and complain. You can't just come here and whine. If you come here, when you come here, I want to be here for you, but we've got to make a choice to do something different. We got to have an exit plan. If you don't have an exit plan, I'll keep you safe for the night or the day, but I don't want to hear it anymore. Because as long as they can come and whine and complain, that can go on for 5-10 years.
All right, y'all. So, y'all, I want to see. Oh my, this is such a great conversation. Like this entire conversation was so good, and they have like some really good clips.
I'll tell you what, we can come back to it. It's one of the things we can come back to with yeah, we can do some more on this later on in the week, I think, because it
Because
has got, it is a
yeah,
good conversation, and there's probably more to talk about. And obviously, it's quite triggering. So I think one little session is
let's
enough
move on and
today.
make it a little bit lighter. Let's make it a little bit lighter. I'll tell y'all what I'll do. We'll take a real quick song break. We'll move on. We'll make it lighter. We got to get into, and these are very short as well, y'all. So I ain't gonna keep y'all too much longer. We're gonna see what's going on with Nia Long, and we're gonna see what's going on with DL Hughley and excuse me, y'all, Killer Mike, right? Those two are very short, very straight to the point. And y'all know that as of recently, Nia Long does play Michael Jackson's mother in the new Michael Jackson movie. And so, as epic as that movie is, and also just to add some more context, this is the actually only movie that Michael Jackson's family signed off on and said that they wanted and gave their blessing to be created. So it's supposed to be one of the best, other than the Jackson 5, that was on screen when it comes to Michael Jackson, right? And Nia Long played Katherine Jackson. And so there's some disparities around her pay for that. But child, I could not make that make sense why they wouldn't pay that woman her money. Not only is she a great actress that has been around for a very, very long period of time, beautiful and talented, but she's playing like a dynamic role and one of the greatest stories told about one of the greatest legends that in the music industry we hold dear to our hearts. So I don't understand why they're playing with that woman with her money. But anyway, we'll get into that right after this song break, y'all. I'll talk to y'all in just a bit.
We keep running in circles. trying to heal with invisible wounds, yeah. Talk to him. Welcome to Checks, Balances, and Banter. Tonight ain't just entertainment. This is examination. Patterns. Pressure. Pain. And the cost of division. Look, boardroom meetings, still the same conversation. Black faces in the room, but no real compensation. Smile for the camera, sell the diversity, then underpay the talent and call it opportunity. Facts, trauma in the bloodstream, passed through generations. Trying to pray away pain without restoration. Tim Ross said faith ain't a mask for the damage. Can't build a kingdom while your soul's still in bandage. Everybody strong online, weak in the mirror. Hurt people screaming, but nobody really hear us. We praise survival, but ignore mental health. How you gon' build wealth while you dying inside yourself? Heal before the war consumes us. Heal before the hate removes us. Tell the truth. We keep fighting each other while the system keeps winning. Marching in circles, same page, different prison. Lost in distractions, forgetting our mission. We need unity, more than division. Don't let the pain become your religion. Don't let the trauma steal the vision. History rhythmically repeats until we break the rhythm. Dr. Umar got the people all divided again, debating identity while the clock keeps spinning. Everybody yelling, nobody organizing. Too busy online, too little strategizing. And listen, you can disagree without destroying your own. Can't build a movement if everybody throwing stones. That wedge gets driven every single generation. Labels over liberation becomes the occupation. Meanwhile, hopelessness infecting our men. Iyanla said they tired of losing again and again. System got them feeling like the game been fixed, so they stop dreaming big and start accepting the bricks. That psychological warfare disguised as exhaustion. A spirit slowly dying from constant caution. When a man lose hope, he stop protecting the future. Then the cycle repeats and the damage gets crueler. Wake up, wake up. Mothers crying, brothers silent. Brothers silent, children watching. Pressure violent, pressure violent. But somewhere in the darkness, there's still a light. We can heal if we stop running from the fight. Me alone still fighting just to get equal pay. Legendary status, and they still underplay. Crazy, that's the industry model. Take our culture, make billions, then tell black excellence to settle for civilians. We don't own the labels, don't own the stages, don't own distribution. That's modern day cages. Inclusion ain't ownership, let's be honest tonight. A seat at the table, ain't control of the light. Then DL and Killer Mike clash over politics. Question inconsistency in all of the following tricks. Who really speak for the people once the cameras roll? Who protect the movement once they finally get close? Power in proximity, power's autonomy. Too many sell the future for temporary economy. Can't worship celebrities more than community. Or we trade liberation for manufactured unity. Talk that talk. We are more than the trauma, more than the labels, more than the fear they feed us at the table. We break every cycle, we can heal every scar, but education means nothing, 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 nothing if we never apply who we are. History doesn't just repeat itself, it rhymes. And every generation gets tested by the same distractions. Division, despair, and performative power. The question is, will we finally recognize the pattern before the pattern recognizes us?
All right, y'all. Thanks for rocking with me with that sound break right there. A little song. So now we're gonna go ahead and get to the next video. So yeah, y'all. So apparently Nia Long reportedly is quietly fighting a pay dispute with Lionsgate over, the most epic new film of this year, which is the life story of Michael Jackson. And Nia Long plays Katherine Jackson in the movie. But apparently they're arguing about pay. So let's see what's going on with that, y'all. And then we'll talk about whether we think it's fair or not fair. So let's get into that. We're going to play audio only. This is from the Breakfast Club. We'll listen to it together and then we'll make our commentary after we listen to this and the D.L. Hughley audio. So we're just going to merge these two together and we'll do our talking points at the end. Okay. All right, here we go.
Nia Long, there was a report over the weekend that Nia Long is quietly fighting a battle against Lionsgate for the character that she played in the Michael Jackson movie, which was Michael Jackson's mother, Miss Katherine Jackson. Now, according to this report, there's something called a favorite nations clause in Nia Long's contract that would have ensured that she makes as much as her co-stars are making. But reportedly, she learned after the filming that Coleman Domingo and Miles Teller had higher payouts than she did. So she went back to Lionsgate reportedly, and she threatened to take the studio to mediation for shortening her salary. Now I've reached out to Nia Long's team to see if they make a comment about this. Haven't heard anything back, but I'm sure, if this is happening behind the scenes because it's going legal now, that's probably why we're not hearing anything. But she didn't, and they talked about like the fact of like how long she appeared on screen and how I guess originally it was supposed to be more time than we actually saw her, but she did an amazing job.
It don't matter. Most favored nation is most favored nation. Yeah. I mean, everybody's supposed to get paid the same thing.
Yeah, they're going to figure it out, especially if they want to do a part 2, they're going to figure it out quickly.
Yeah, hopefully they do.
The movie made enough money, so.
Yeah, she deserves it. And I saw Spike Lee was on CNN with Laura Coates talking about the movie and the critics. Let's take a listen to Spike Lee.
Now, this brings me to the reviews of...
Yeah, the movie's out. You saw it.
I've seen it twice.
You've seen it twice. What'd you think?
Love it.
Why so much criticism?
Because if you're a movie critic and you're complaining about this stuff that all this other stuff, but the movie ends in 88 and stuff, you're talking about accusations happen, so you're critiquing the film on something that you wanted, but it doesn't work in the timeline of the film. But people showed up worldwide. People showed their love. Michael, and I miss Mike, I miss Prince. I mean, these are my brothers. I mean, just work with both of them.
That's a flex.
Beautiful people.
That's a flex to be able to say you work with Prince and Michael Jackson. But also, I want to tell y'all something, man. If you watch something...
Yo, can you swallow, yo?
Yeah.
I can't hear a word that you're saying.
Say that one more time.
I'm talking to everybody but Envy right now. Okay?
Y'all are crazy in this room this morning. Happy Met Gala Monday.
All I'm simply saying is if you watch something, you can like it and love it and celebrate it and say that. That's not deriding. That's not glazing. If something is amazing and you want to say it's amazing, say that. You don't have to have a critique. Okay, because I didn't after seeing Michael's movie on Saturday, I don't understand none of y'all critique about the Michael Jackson movie.
You can say you want more though.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. It made me feel full and good after the movie was over.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it, and I still want more, of course. I had to say that. You're looking at me. Okay. You go.
All right. So and switching gears a bit, still talking about Nia Long. So there's a clip circulating right now from her Playboy interview that we talked about here. And I thought that this would be a good...
Nia Long did Playboy?
Yeah, she did it. And she's been doing a bunch of press. She didn't do Playboy in the way that you're thinking, though. Like, it was very elevated.
How you know I'm thinking? I asked you a simple question.
Because the way you put up that chin and you did,
I've always read Playboy for the article, so I don't know what you talking about.
You're spitting all over yourself right now. Ew, and you picked it back up and put it in your mouth. You were nasty.
Waste not, want not.
Oh my God. But yeah, so she did Playboy as a part of the rollout for this film and other projects that she's working on. And she had sat down for an interview and she was talking about dating. She's been talking a lot about her dating life. And she's saying that if you don't respond to her, she has a certain way she's going to react while dating. Let's take a listen.
The new way of dating is so, I don't even understand what's happening. First of all, if I text you and you take a day, I'm never talking to you again. I'm never talking to you again. Make a plan or go away. No one has time for temperature checks. And I do think if you're looking for a partner, you have to be actively out there in order to meet. But I also am not in that space right now.
I need to meet the legend who didn't reply back to Nia Long
for a whole 24 hours.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Like, who are you? I need to know who you are before I come to a judgment.
Not just Nia Long. If you're interested in anybody, Wouldn't you respond right away?
No,
But
let's stop.
Nia
It's
Long,
Nia
baby.
Long. Like, come on, let's keep it. Yeah,
She
Nia Long.
did y'all
Yes,
see her?
I'm
She
with
running
you.
around for Met Gala weekend. She was out last night. They went to Tiana Taylor's
But-
party. She looks amazing.
But if you're into
24
anybody,
hours.
wouldn't you respond immediately?
But Nia Long, bro, you got to hit Nia Long back immediately. There's nothing wrong with acting thirsty over Nia Long. It's Nia Long, bro. Okay,
I can understand a couple hours you have some things happen, but the whole day.
Come on, man. What else? What else
You
got
went to
going
sleep
on in
and
your
woke
life?
up and didn't even think about that text.
Yeah,
I got in a car accident, almost died.
But what else you got going on
Man,
in your
you
life
better
that Nia
tell me
Long
that.
is interested in you and you don't reply back for 24 hours?
It's the Nia Longs and the girls with the short hair like the Nia Longs. You know, you can't do us like that.
Who is us? Now,
Who are you comparing yourself to?
Now, see, God want me to tell you something.
What
right
God
now.
wants you to tell you? Let me hear this. Let me
God
hear
just
this.
needs me to tell you that you are not Nia Long.
Hey,
Okay?
I'm not saying I'm Nia Long.
Nia Long gonna be at the Met Gala tonight. She's gonna be walking the red carpet. She's gonna be in there. She's gonna be wearing something. You got rejected. Okay.
And what I'm saying is that there's nothing wrong with her because people was upset that she said this. Like it's
Nia
nothing
Long
wrong.
doesn't have a ball spot either.
Whoa.
All right.
Yeah.
That's the latest with Lauren. Thank you, Lauren.
You know what? I be trying to figure out whose side you be on.
Oh, she talking about Nia Long.
Short hair like Nia Long.
Girl,
You know?
you ain't long, you brief, you short, you little, you abbreviated.
It's giving inspiration of 90s fine.
Ain't nothing long
my
about
goodness.
Every day I wake up. Wake your ass up. The Breakfast Club.
You all finished or Hi, sorry, Golden.
All right, here we are. We're back. Now, like the Breakfast Club can be a bit controversial, but they had that little second story that they wanted to segue in there. But what I was talking about was the pay disparaging of Nia Long when it comes to her role of Catherine Jackson in the Michael Jackson movie, the new movie that's out right now. What do you think about all of that?
Well, I think it's the age-old argument about, disparities between pay and equity. Particularly interesting because we're talking a biopic about a black family, and there's a black woman still contesting the difference in pay. And it's a familiar debate for Hollywood, especially across, different actors on the same project. Um, uh, you know, Obviously it's in a legal situation, and therefore they probably could not say that much because they had contacted her and she hadn't answered. So they did segue into a conversation about dating and stuff that Nia Long said before about dating, and I thought that was quite funny because I do remember that conversation. um and I like her. I did like her answers when she said she is, takes note of the speed of communication and in early dating stages, because these are indications of what could be happening going forward. So it was an amusing conversation, but it also did have some few teaching things in there. I mean, it started out with something serious, which is pay and fairness in the Hollywood, and the issue with the Michael Jackson biopic, and concerns about the difference in pay. And then it moved on to something about intentional dating, and also Spike Lee defending the criticism that the film has had. I think that probably there's some timelines that are out. I haven't seen it yet, so we'll probably talk about it when I have seen it. But yeah,
Right.
age old discussion. There's not really a lot you can say because she's in legal discussion. So,
Right.
what can I say?
And I don't want to say too much, because she is in legal discussions. But you know how we like to do over here. We like to educate. We like to let everybody know what's going on. So I did pull up my notes that I made on this. So I'm going to explain a little bit in a different, kind of way as far as what's going on. So it basically is a legal battle, and it is between Nia Long and Lionsgate. And yes, it is around the 2026 Michael Jackson biopic. Okay. So Michael highlights a classic industry struggle for Nia highlights a classic industry struggle for pay equality. Now, despite her decades of success, she is currently in a quiet but significant fight to get the compensation she was contractually, and that is the biggest word that y'all need to remember. It's contractually promised, right? So this wasn't she signed a contract for something that she wasn't expected to get and then later wanted to negotiate. This was all contractually done up front. And then when things started to fall out and pay out the way they're supposed to, it didn't go the way it was supposed to go, allegedly. So we know that Nia Long in the movie portrays the family matriarch, which is Katherine Jackson, in a film that covers Michael's journey from the Jackson 5 through the late 1980s. Now, when we move into legalities and definitions, this is the legal weapon, okay? A lot of people have probably just most recently heard about favored nations clause when they brought it up on that interview with the Breakfast Club. So let's get into a little bit about what that is. So at the heart of this dispute, it is a specific legal tool in Nia's contract called favored nations clause. Now, the definition of that is the clause ensures that an actor's pay remains equitable to their, side-by-side co-stars. It dictates that if a comparable cast member pay increases or is set at a higher level, the actor with that said clause in place must have their pay matched what the other actors are being paid. Now, here's the violation. Nia reportedly discovered that her male co-host, which is Coleman Domingo, who played Joe Jackson, and Miles Teller, who played John Branca, were paid significantly more than she was, despite her having this clause in place in her actress contract. So this is the studio's defense. The screen time versus the contract, which we have to know within her contract if there is a clause for screen time. If there is no clause for screen time, then I see a win in her favor. But anyway, Lionsgate reports defense hinges on the final cut of the movie rather than the original agreement. That's not really how the law works. And anyway, I'm not going to go too far into that, y'all, but yeah, the law don't work like that. But anyway, the third act overhaul. Due to a legal oversight involving past settlements with accuser Jordan Chandler, the film's original ending was scrapped and reshot to remove references to certain allegations, that have now surfaced around the Jacksons family. And we would just say when it comes to children and maybe, things of that nature, right? I don't want to say these words because you can be flagged. Reduced role. The 11th hour changes the result in Nina's screen time being substantially reduced compared to the original script she signed on for. Now, okay, never mind. Let's keep going. The conflict. The studio suggests her pay should reflect her final minutes on screen, while Nia's team argues that her contractual status and the favored nations clause must be honored regardless of how many scenes were cut in post-production. Now, that's the part that I agree on. Current legal status in the mediation. Nia Long is not currently in a public courtroom, but she is using formal legal leverage to resolve the issue. So the threat of mediation. She has reportedly threatened to take Lionsgate to formal mediation, something they don't want. A legal process where a neutral third party helps both sides reach a settlement to address the breach of contract, right? So she's trying to actually be, what would I call it, classy about this situation and handle it behind the scenes and come to some type of resolve, in my personal opinion, because she knows what is in her actress contract. It's not about what she signed on to do for the project. It's, when you hire me as an actress, these are the clauses that come with me. And this is what you must, agree to and you must respect. That's what she's fighting against. But she doesn't want to make it public. And so it hasn't all the way gone, or hasn't really gone to court. They're trying to handle it behind the scenes. So the sequel leverage. With Michael breaking the box office records, bringing in a $217 million just on opening weekend. Now a sequel is actually already being discussed. When asked if she would return for a second film, Nia potentially told the Today Show, if the price is right. I mean, who's not going to want to work for what they're worth, right? With such a big film actually being out there and bringing in so much money, why can't you pay this woman what she's worth? And also, it's not just about paying her what she's worth, it's about having respect to the clauses that's within her actress contract. If other actors and actresses are getting paid a certain amount, she at least needs to be matched that amount. Nothing less at this point. I think all she's asking for is the equal amount that some of these other actors and actresses have been gotten paid for the film, despite on how they wanted to chop and screw it and scenes that they wanted to cut out. So here's the trap. Nia is fighting the same one we've seen for hundreds of years. The system tries to devalue black labor by moving the goalposts. They always move the goalposts. They used a technicality, which comes to what they're discussing as screen time, to ignore a legal promise. Okay, favored nations. And Nia has been in this game for a long time. I'm pretty sure she has a great legal team and on her side. And she decided to add these clauses into her contract as representation as an actress. So when you hire me, you have to respect what is in my contract and what I come with and what I'm requiring when I step foot on the set or do any work with you. You cannot use these technicalities and these clauses to backpedal and skate your way out of it. That's my personal opinion, but that's what I'm saying legally. So Nia's battle is a lesson for every creator. It's not enough to even just have talent. You have to have contracts and the courage to take them to mediation when the balances just don't add up. So what do you think about that, Imani?
Yeah, I mean, I think like I said, it's a lot more of it depends on the contract and the clauses. And I didn't realize you'd done such a comprehensive study, as per usual, on the contract information. And if they haven't met the terms of the contract, they're going to have to pay. The normal thing, it's the normal age old thing. They probably didn't think she was going to discover this or
Right.
complain. So,
Right.
yeah, like I said, we'll see how it goes. I mean, obviously, if it's contractual, they're going to have to pay. And I mean, more than that, we just have to see what happens in the end. But probably for the next one, they probably won't hire her unless she's actually signed on for the sequel
Well,
already.
listen. If we're gonna keep it real, then isn't that the same thing that they try to do with Monique? Oh, we will
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
blacklist her because she's
yeah,
difficult. When a
yeah.
black woman wants to get paid their worth, now they get
Hmm.
listed as difficult, hard to work with, doesn't want to bow down and do what we say, and they really get mad because a lot of times we kind of smarter than you. So that's my personal
I
opinion.
d-
Because
yeah, I mean, I think
put a part
this
like
happens
that.
in this happens in a
Mhm.
lot of places and spaces. It happens in the corporate world. You get this all the time. It's a lot of the time it just happens. People just find out. This can go on for years in many places and spaces, and it's not really just about black people. Sometimes it's gender gaps. Sometimes it's because
Yeah.
you've moved up.
No, it's
You
not a
you've
race
moved
thing.
up in a corporate space, and they will pay you less because you've been at the place for a long time, but they'll bring in someone new
But you know
and
what,
pay them
Imani?
more than you.
Exactly. But you know what, Imani? This
Yeah.
is what I feel about it. We know absolutely down to the core of it. It's not a race thing because a lot of
Mm-hmm.
that was never created for our race, right? These things
Mm-hmm.
were put in position to help make sure things were fair for us
Yeah.
initially,
I mean, you
right?
have this in gender gaps. You just have gender pay gaps. There's lots of different reasons why you can be in a company a long time and earn less than somebody who comes in to a company as a newbie. It's a fact. It really is. life as it is. But yeah, it's we'll see how that one pans
So,
out.
so no, I want to talk because this is a serious conversation. I want to talk about this. So we have Monique warning us. We seen what happened, with the whole Monique when she was on Precious, and all how that went down, and when she took to certain platforms to talk about her experience. Then we seen what happened with Taraji. Child, she was bent over in tears when it came to Color Purple and how they tried to do her, right? And we have a seasoned actress like Nia Long that may not have necessarily, and I don't know when she decided to move this way that she moved. It might have been very early on by talking to somebody who's very knowledgeable within the industry and telling her how to protect herself, and she put that in place then, or maybe after seeing what was happening, she put in place, after she seen what was happening to other black actresses. But I take it with Nia Long, she probably had it in place for a long period of time, right? So let's talk about what favorite nations clause is with definition. Okay. So this clause
The
is a
thing is, Golden, I really do. I'm sorry, something has just come up, so
okay.
I really want to
That's,
continue this discussion.
no, I'll finish it out and then we can do our second
Well,
part two tomorrow.
yeah, can we really continue with this tomorrow? And also the other thing is on the other two videos that we didn't do, which is Killer Mike and MIA. Can we do those tomorrow? Because I do want to take part in
Uh,
those discussions.
okay, yeah. I was just so it's just Killer Mike is the last one, but MIA, I didn't have that one on for this live. That'll be for the next one.
Right, yeah. So can we do the Killer Mike and MIA tomorrow? Will that be okay? Or because I
Yeah,
really
if
did
you
want
want, we can push that conversation till tomorrow because that's a good
to. Yeah,
conversation to have.
because yeah,
And it
because this
falls
one,
into our political stuff. So yeah, that'll be dope to talk about.
yeah.
Well,
If
let's
that's
do this.
okay with you.
It's not long. I'm just gonna read this real quick and then we're
Yeah,
gonna end the live. But I just
yeah.
wanna because we have facts over here. So when it comes to the favorite nations, I need people to know this about this clause. It's a legal safeguard in entertainment contracts, all right, that is designed to ensure parity and fairness. For actresses or actors, it is a critical tool used to close pay gaps and ensure they receive the same star treatment as their co-stars. That's something that's there that you can get and you can put it in your contract. So, a FN clause is a contractual promise that if a producer offers better terms to another similarly situated person on the project, they must automatically match those terms, right? For the person holding that clause within their own personal contract, being Nia Long. It is essentially guarantees that you are treated as well as the most favorite person in your category, such as actors and actresses. So here are the key areas of coverage. While often discussed in terms of salary, FN clauses can cover a wide range of contractual provisions, not just compensations. If a co-star, hold on one second. If a co-star fee is increased, then yours must rise to match what they've been increased to as well. Billing and credits. It ensures your name is displayed as prominently every other person on the project's name within the credits, right? That you get your credit. Travel and accommodations guarantees equal treatment for first class airfare, trailer size, and per diems. Interesting. Back end points. If a co-star negotiates a higher percentage of the film's profits, the FN holder is entitled to that same percentage. There we go. So, when it comes to the most favorite versus favorite distinction, the most favorite nations, MFN, no one on the project can have better terms than you. Whatever they get, no matter how big they are, you get exactly what they get. All the amenities and the same rate of pay. Favorite nations, FN, you are matched to a specific peer group, all lead actors or executive producers. Strategic benefits for actresses, closing the pay gap. It protects against information asymmetry, where you don't know what others are making by forcing the studio to adjust your pay if they pay a male co-star more. And we do know there are some, differences when it comes to male actors and female actors as far as pay. So it seems to me like Nia Long has done her homework. Hedging risk. If acts as a hedge bet, you can settle on price today with the peace of mind that if the studio pays someone else more later, you won't be left behind either. So it don't matter whether they paying something more than you on entry or later on they decide they want to pay somebody more than you. This clause means whatever they're paying that person, as much as it is, you get it too. Child, look like she done did her research. Reduce transaction costs. It simplifies negotiations by setting a floor based on a market rate established by other cast members. And critical lead challenges. So they have the scope trap. Producers often try to limit the FN clause to only similarity situated actors, which can be used to exclude stars with different titles. For example, an actor who has a producer credit. Don't work. Confidentiality. Because contracts are private, it is often difficult for an actress to know if her FN clause has been triggered without an audit of production records. And non-standard perks. Personal perks like nanny allowances or private jets are often excluded from FN parodies to avoid massive, cascading costs for the studio. But the real world execution, a FN clause is not a standard SAG-AFTRA requirement. It must be separately negotiated by the legal team. As seen in recent 2026 disputes, studios may attempt to bypass these clauses by citing creative changes, such as reduced screen time, to argue that the original parody no longer applies. So that's a little bit quick breakdown there, y'all, when it comes to that. And that's what Nia Long happens to be in a silence battle about right now with Lionsgate Studios. So that's all I got on that. You have any final words, Imani?
Well, she's obviously got a very good team behind
Yeah.
her because, that was very good negotiating skills. But
Yeah.
I think we'll hear more on this, and we should probably talk more about the situation. And maybe when we talk tomorrow, we'll have some box office figures because we can come back to this discussion and talk
Yeah.
about where it's happened before and what the result has been. And I'm
Yeah.
so sorry to rush you at the end, but
No, it's okay. It's already about to be 4 hours. But by
yeah.
tomorrow, it'll probably be new updates anyway. So that'll be even better.
Yeah,
But
no, we can definitely continue a couple of these discussions tomorrow. It's great. It's been great to be back. Great to do the live with you again. And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, so all good. And all love to everybody. It's been really nice today.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I thank you so much for joining me, and we'll have more to come. And like you said, we will finish some of these topics and add some additional topics on tomorrow's live. But that's all we got for today, y'all. So we hope y'all enjoyed it. We hope y'all enjoyed us being back talking about these type of things, and on the up and up. Okay.
Bye. See you
We're
later,
gonna go
guys.
ahead and end it, y'all. Bye, Imani. Y'all know how
Bye.
I gotta do. I'm gonna end it with a bop per usual. We'll get up out of here. Thank y'all so much for rolling and rocking with us this long. We really appreciate it. And I hope y'all enjoy all the topics and the conversations. Let's go ahead and get into this song, and we'll be ending the live for today. Everybody have a great rest of the day. I hope y'all get blessed. And remember, sometimes we all fall short and we fall off the horse, but we can always get back up, pick it back up, and start back over. Okay, so we got to keep it positive and we got to keep it pushing. But thank y'all for tuning in and joining in with this, and I will talk to y'all tomorrow. Mom has a live coming up a little bit later this evening. It's she does her spiritual lives, so if y'all want to check that out, you can go over to Mama Warrior's channel and check out her live a little bit later on. And there's some more great things to come. I'm getting back to regular scheduled program. Anyway, y'all, that's all we got for now. I'll talk to y'all tomorrow. Golden out. Bye.
It's that reset energy. I had to pause. Look myself dead in the mirror. And listen. Lately. Lately I admit I've been moving out of line. Lick the anger on the timeline, start to cloud on my mind. Seen the clips, seen the lies. Yeah, I felt that fire, but I let it burn too wild. Took me higher than required. I was speaking truth, but the tongue got lost. When the message turned rage, that's a dangerous cause. Started sounding like the noise that I claim I oppose. That's a war you don't win when you're losing your soul. Reflecting in the mirror like, who is that? That ain't discipline talk, that's so reckless, clap back. Had to check my spirit, had to humble my seat. Cause power ain't loud when it's truly elite. Sometimes the truth don't feel good when it land, but growth don't happen if you don't understand. Had to hear it, had to sit with this thing you can't feel, but you hide. That's a dangerous thing. Now I'm taking it back. A queen on attack. No with anger, but with truth. Yeah, I'm leading with that. Time to hit that reset. Time to get back to me. Time to get that reset. Time to get back to me. I see the injustice. Yeah, I feel that pain. That fire in my chest, an imaginary flame. But if I let it consume me, then I lose my aim. Turn into the very spirit that I'm calling out by name. And that's fact. Had to sit with that truth. A warrior with no control, ain't protecting the youth. If the message get buried in the ego and pride, then the purpose gets lost while the mission just dies. We can't fight hate, moving fueled by hate. That's a cycle that repeats, that's a spiritual way. Can I step back, reap, hella break my stance? Cause reaction ain't power, it's just like a command. Yeah. I'm passionate, yeah I care. But passion without discipline, that's destruction. Had to own it, no excuses in sight. Can't blame the world if I'm losing the fight. Accountability heavy but it's sharp in the blade. Every lesson I accept is another upgrade. You can't grow if you duck in the truth. Can't evolve if you stuck in your proof. Sometimes God send a message real clear, but you gotta be still just to actually hear. Feeling talk different when you're ready to change. When you stop pointing fingers and you stay in your lane. Yeah, I feel. That's the difference between growth and a permanent fall. Now I'm taking it back. We on attack with a clear mind. Now ain't no turning me back. Time to hit that reset. Time to get back to me. Time to hit that reset. Time to get back to me. Now I'm taking it back. Now I'm taking it back. Time to get that reset. Now I'm taking it back. Time to get back to me. It's a new day. New discipline. New discipline. New spirit. Not perfect, but alive. We back. We back, but wiser this time.